Alright, good evening and welcome to round 3 of the Automobilista Australia TCR Australia series. Obviously round 3 tonight from Winton Motor Raceway. Should be a tough little circuit, obviously, for these front wheel drive cars. Obviously I do have once again Rory joining me, but he's off just getting a glass or bottle of water, which I'm pretty sure he is going to need. Still got just under 2 minutes of practice to go before we head into qualifying. But that just gives us a little bit of time, obviously, to go over, obviously, the Winton circuit as well as possibly the drivers' standings as well. Sounds like Rody has joined us. Rody, how's it going, mate?
It's good, Lewis. It's good to be back with TCR again for another Tuesday night. And look, a bit of a smaller grid than I think we've seen previously, but should still be a good depth of grid. We have a couple of drivers coming back, a couple of new drivers, and very old familiar faces as well back in the TCR scene.
Well, it might be a smaller, obviously, night than what we've had the last few nights we've had at Automobilist Australia. It's actually, I believe, one of the larger um, fields we've had in TCR so far this season, which is a bit of a shame. Was hoping we'd get upwards of 15 drivers to show up, but a couple of drivers not able to make it tonight. Bit of a shame, but we do have currently, I think, 11 or 12 guys in the server, but I think there should be about 13 racing from the people we've seen in the server. All right, well, we might as well just go over, obviously, the Winton circuit, and as you can see on your screen there, very, very stop-starty with only really one or two flowy corners there in the middle sector. AMSOZ record of a 1 minute 22.551 by Bretton Hobson in the initial Supercar Championship here. Now, this is from last year and from last season, so I'm not sure if those times have been bettered, but I'm pretty sure that is the AMS Oz record. Circuit length 3 kilometres, and as you can see, it is a national circuit because driving an international race around here would probably be a little bit idiotic, Brody.
Yeah, I know. Winton is. We've seen it with some of the IRL touring TCR action that it gives you some really exciting racing, and it's a good track. It's wide enough here that you can get through a lot of these corners too wide, so it should hopefully induce some good racing out of some of these drivers.
Yeah, it certainly should. Obviously, drivers can race side by side through a lot of the circuit, and obviously because of the nature of a lot of the corners, you can sort of hang it around the outside of one corner and have the inside for the next, as you can see, obviously in that middle sector there. All right, it has just ticked over to qualifying, so while that happens, we'll just actually go over the top 10 in the standings because obviously the drivers will be waiting for the red light to go out. So as you can see on your screen, Davies hitting the top of the field by just 12 points over Brett Foley. Obviously, Foley didn't have the fastest start to his championship defence, but certainly come roaring back in round 2, Rody.
Yeah, it was not what we'd expected for Foley for the start of the season. Third, second, sixth in that last race at Sydney. Started to bounce back fairly healthy now, so he's now within 12 points of Dwayne, and it's going to be a really tight fight now. Dwayne with 2 wins to Foley's one. Third, Nether, bit of a surprise package in a way, but he's been constantly trying to push better, and this has been aside from maybe the Porsche series a couple of years ago, this has been a series that Nether's really come to grips with. He's currently in third championship, which he's pretty happy with. Unfortunately, 2 podium positions. Sorry, it's not actually highlighted on the sheet, but there was a win in that in the second race at Barbagallo as well. So he's doing all right for himself. Tomo fourth in the first Cooper Kai Racing cars, and Brendan Ross sitting in fifth in the second FCR Motorsport Corolla.
Yeah, so that is the top 5. Bit of a gap between obviously Nether and Turmo, but obviously there has been a bit of a pace difference, if we're honest, between the front 3 and the rest of the field. Although Ross has shown a little bit of pace at times, but that consistency just hasn't quite been there. But from what we've seen in practice, he certainly looks on the pace to certainly Dwayne Davies and Brenton Foley. Well, Nether seems to be just a little bit off the pace this evening.
Yeah, he's lacking the pace a little bit from what he would ideally want to be pulling. He's been there or thereabouts so far this season, and hopefully in Nether's case that he has got a little bit up his sleeve that he's saving for qualifying. Hopefully he has got that point with his pace in these cars that he's doing what the front guys are doing, and deliberately leaving, you know, third, or possibly top end of second it is, for turn 4. Short straight coming now up to probably the fastest or highest loaded corner of the circuit, turn 5. Big sweeping corner, which Tomo's taking in third gear. It just keeps going left and keeps going left and keeps going left. And there's a little right-hand kink, which can unsettle the cubby for a short run to a braking zone for the start of the Gumtree section. Also known, depending on who you talk to, as the Titties. Through the centre part of the Gumtree section, which is where the Gumtree itself actually sits on the inside of that corner there. Then through the last of that section, Tomo second again. A lot of second and third gear corners at this track. Not a lot of, as we mentioned earlier, not a lot of high-speed cornering. Run down another straight down to the just past 90-degree left-hander that I believe is turn 9, but I could be wrong, running off memory here. And then into the extension. The old track used to actually go straight ahead at that left-hander and turn right back onto the front straight, but they extended this, I believe, in the last 15 or so years, which is what the supercars are now using. So in through the last corner there, and second and last, and now through the last corner. And he's coming back to the line, and he looks like he sets probably a low 130.
It's going to be actually a
Low
32-1. I got Dane Davies on a lap, and he was setting purples out there. 1 minute 30.3, which is 2/10 off the fastest time that we've seen so far from practice, which was a Breton Foley in a 30.1. So still a good start to qualifying for him. Maybe even being a personal best. In fact, it was a personal best. So doing your best in, obviously, the one-shot qualifying always puts you in good stead. You got Bolger there in third, and Cracker now in fourth on a 34.3. Let's start looking around out there for drivers that are on a lap.
I think Wayne's the next car on a lap.
Yeah, Wayne is the only driver at the moment on a time lap. So follow him around. We see the Ken Block inspired Monster Racing Ford Focus.
And he'll actually be one of 2 drivers in that livery tonight. Liam Spencer, his son, will also be in that car, but unfortunately issues in practice meant that he's had to revert to using my old car, actually, for practice and qualifying, but he will be switching to the second Monster Focus come warm-up. And we had a bit of a lag there, so I think somebody's either joined or left the server, which ideally shouldn't be doing during qualifying.
I know Foley's in there in his car now, and I think Duncan, Caelan Duncan, one of the newcomers as well, just joined the server, which caused that little lag back. Anyway, Wayne to the line, a 34.5 for him, so not ideal. Currently the last of the drivers to have set a lap time. Doesn't look like anybody's on a lap, but Liam, his son, he's about to set a lap coming out of turn 11, and now going through the final turn here at Winton. See, there was a little bit of banter between himself and his dad throughout practice whenever one was set a faster lap than the other. And, Liam's not started his lap too well, outbrake himself there for the first chicane. But still plenty of time to make up a bit of time and put himself in front of his old man.
Yeah, Liam was sitting. They were going back and forth in that practice session. I think at the height of it, Liam was sitting 3/10 ahead of Wayne. Wayne's pace comes more from experience. Liam's there he goes.
Well,
his pace, I was going to say, comes from more just the raw, reckless, throw it into the corner style, which we see from the younger drivers, and we've seen what happened there. I think hopefully he's just come around and finish a lap. He might not be the last off because these cars are twitchy on qualifying laps if you haven't got the car set up quite right, so he might not end up being the last person. But that definitely didn't help.
Yeah, certainly didn't help, and his dad will certainly be ribbing him in Discord about that mistake. So I got Manuel Centeno. He's about to cross the line and set a 39.3 because he was very late coming in practice. He's got Nether just leaving the pit. He's got Glenn Miles on an out lap. He was the car that went by Liam after he had his little adventure off in the Victorian outback. Let's see, Glenn will be the next driver to set a time lap. We'll just follow Liam and see what lap time he's able to conjure up.
And there goes Glenn.
Yeah, there's Glenn off once again. Just he's doing a Russell Coit impersonation, exploring the great Australian outdoors. And Spencer across the line on a 45.0. Obviously, he does cross the line to set a time. And you can pick up track cuts at the first chicane and at a couple other corner exits around here, so it is vital that you do set a lap if you want to obviously start as high up as possible for this first race, Verdi.
And nearly pathetic as I said it, he won't be the last in qualifying because Glenn overshot turn 1 quite considerably and chose, rather than continue to finish his lap, he chose to leave it there. So Glenn Miles with no lap time at all. So that will mean that although he did make a pretty big hash of turn 5, Liam Spencer will not be starting last on the grid.
Certainly. Well, we've only got one man on the circuit at the moment, and that is this man, Netherealmian. With just under 2.5 minutes remaining, I do believe we'll see the FCR crew rolling out probably in the next 30 seconds or so to set a lap. Got a full complement of FCR drivers out there tonight, with Matt Williams making his first race of the season, which is good to see. And in fact, I can just hear them in the pits at the moment, all getting ready to leave the pits as Nether begins his charge towards hopefully good qualifying lap.
Yeah, and Nether's got to push hard, especially now because he does now have 3 FCR cars to battle for the top positions, aside from obviously Dwayne Davies as well in his focus. But yeah, it has been a few months since we've seen Matt Williams on the wheel of his TCR car. Obviously, TCR season was off for holidays for the few months, but while we haven't seen him in his TCR car, he has been brushing up his skills and getting back into the groove in TDC on Monday nights. And I know the first time he was back, he was about the same pace as me, which anyone who knows my racing isn't particularly enlightening pace. But come the second round last night at Barbagallo we were at, I believe, he was sitting in the top 5 and obviously not trying to compete to be at the top in those cars. This is, I suppose, more of his bread and butter. So we'll see how he goes. But Nether just coming up to the second timing split now, so we'll get an idea of where his pace sits. But I believe he might have been slightly down in that first sector.
He was a 10.5 down. He's only lost about 2/10 in the middle sector, so it's a decent lap that he's put together so far. If he continues this pace, he'll set a sub 1 minute 31. He'll be in the 1 minute 30s. But it is very easy to outbrake yourself at the obviously penultimate corner. It's very easy to run wide as well coming out of this final corner. He's got through there nicely. Now it's the run to the line, and I reckon this might be another 1 minute 30. No, he's lost more time. He's lost 0.6 of a second in the final sector. So Davies supreme under braking the final 2 corners, and he's sitting atop of the pile at the moment, as Brendan Ross will be, or it looks like he's the first one of the FCR cars to go out there and set a lap time, and we've got one of them off the road.
That's Matt Williams.
That's Matt Williams, and got Foley's just started his lap with about 8 seconds remaining.
And Matt has actually put out that lap same roughly way that Glenn Miles did, so he'll be starting from the back with Glenn Miles.
Yeah, so we'll stick with Brendan Ross for now as he goes through turn number 5, which is a tricky enough corner. Well, it's a tricky corner in any car you drive, but certainly in a front wheel drive you can lose the back end, and you can also understeer off the road as well. Half a second off in the first split, so it hasn't been ideal, and he's missed the apex there at turn number 8. So it hasn't been ideal. That said though, if he puts together a good final couple sectors here, he can still be in the top 3, but he's going to need a little bit of luck, I think.
He is pushing that thing hard. There's just a curb mounting there. He's had lock-ups. He ran a little wide there. I don't think it's giving him a track cut, but he probably wasn't far off it. It has hurt his pace. He's down now 0.6 on Dwayne Davies' time.
Yeah, no, in fact, he's off.
He's given up.
Yeah, so he did get a track cut for that. So Foley is up by a 1/10. Well, technically just under a 1/10, but he's pretty much a 1/10 of a second. A little bit of a lock up there. I think that's more actually just the rear tyre bouncing along the ground. Nice little run out of the final corner. Now the run to the line. The time to beat a 1 minute 30.371. And across the line, 1 minute 30.442. So Davies reigns supreme in that final sector, which is, turn 10, 11 and 12. So very, very good under braking. And he will once again start from pole position. His championship rival, Brenton Foley, would join him on the front row. Nether starting 3rd. Turbo starting 4th. With obviously Steve Bolger 5th. Cracker 6th. Wayne in 7th. Santino in 8th. Liam Spencer, the last driver to set a time in ninth, and then it will be obviously randomly assorted with Matt Williams, Kalen Duncan, Glenn Miles, and Matt Williams all not setting a time.
Yeah, so what's been bad for the FCR team's qualifying session might actually turn out to be good from where we're seeing for the race because we've got two. Well, we haven't actually seen Matt Williams' indicative pace aside from in the practice session, to be fair. But going off of what his pace was like last season, we can say that we've got two, definitely top five cars, more likely top three cars that are going to be starting in the back of the grid in race one. And we kind of do skew this. We kind of do shuffle up the race orders for race two and three to kind of. Also give the guys at the back a chance to lead the race and a bit more race experience, but also gives the front runners a bit more of a challenge to be the front runners at the end of the race. We're going to get a bit of a reverse grid factor in race one now as well.
Yeah, we'll see Matt Williams, who generally is a very aggressive driver, to obviously force his way through the field. Ross is going to have to obviously work his way through the field as well, and we did see in practice that he was pretty quick as well. So obviously going to have Davies and Foley battling at the front, with Nether not too far away as well. And then we're going to have obviously the FCR Motorsport crew of Ross and Williams having to pick their way through the field as well. So it's going to be an interesting race one coming out. We'll just take a short break, but we'll be back in about 5 minutes' time for a little bit more of a rundown, and then obviously race one here from Winton Raceway. Don't go anywhere. Alright, and welcome back. So the driver's briefing has been concluded. Still got a couple minutes left in the warm-up. Obviously those guys out there to get some last-minute practice in. It also gives us time to go over the second page of the driver's standings. So I guess a more in-depth look at the driver's standings. So as you can see, once again, in the top 10, we did get down to Brendan Ross there on 134 points. Termo also having a solid start to the season, but pace-wise, he hasn't been quite as competitive as in previous seasons. Ross, as we've said, he's been a bit up and down, but tonight, if he can just sort out his getting through the field, I think we'll certainly see him claw back points on Termo and Nether. Bolger, much like Termo, hasn't been able to replicate his GT3 form into these front-wheel drive TCR cars. But, he'll be hoping, obviously, just to turn the wick up in these things a little bit and find a little bit extra pace. But he's got quite a sizable gap over Gary Neville, who's not here this evening. Unfortunately, I think I saw on Discord he's having back spasms or some issues health-wise that are preventing him from racing. So hopefully he gets well and they go away and we're able to see him racing in TCR, or not in TCR, but in AMSOZ as soon as possible. So I hope to see you soon, Gary. And then Cracker on 76, Wayne on 72, and then Thomas Paul, who's only been here for the initial round, who won the initial round, or race, I should say, of the season. Was, I believe, second in race 2, and didn't race 3, hasn't been seen since.
No, and it's a shame because he had some brilliant pace and a very uncannily similar driving style to Brenton Foley as well. Love the sideways in that car. Shame we don't see him back because he was. I think some of the drivers were preferred him not being back because when he was in traffic, he was manageable. But when he was driving solo at the front, he'd just disappear, as we saw in the first race at Sydney. But yeah, then rounding things out, we've got Glenn Miles in the Playboy Camel Racing, Alfa Romeo. Darren O'Brien, who only got to the first round, he has got an updated livery, but he hasn't returned yet to actually run that car yet. And Mike Coulston only done the first round, who we should hopefully see back in the next round or two when the world is a little nicer to him.
Yeah, unfortunately for him, he's stuck in the UK at the moment, so that's why. Obviously, he did make it to Super 2. He bought a new wheel, but he's having some issues with it. But I think what's actually been found out, he actually had steering assistance on, which is why it wasn't turning correctly. And if you've ever had steering assistance on before, it is quite off-putting if you're not used to it.
Yeah, you get that sort of stuff in Forza where you have it on strong and basically the car steers itself, and it's bloody weird. So, Mike, very much of an old style, very manual style driver. So, that wouldn't have gone down well for him at all.
Yep, and the server has ticked over to the race. Now, we do have Liam actually out of position, but
I think that'll be.
He left the server, so we're not going to worry about it too much because he obviously said a 14, but and no one said anything, so we'll just leave it for now. He did have to change car. The rest of the grid is in a decent order. Still got 30 seconds left, so we'll just have a look at the second page of the standings. Got Glenn Miles on 48, O'Brien 44, and as you said, Coulston and Santino rounding out the standings. So I've only had 14 runners so far in the championship that have scored points. Hopefully, or we will have a couple more added to that tonight. But would like to see over 20 drivers for the series and some more consistent runners that we do have signed up, but hopefully they turn up.
And absolutely, we've and that's just to show what it's like. We've had 4 Audis sign up so far, and none of them have appeared, aside from one DNF from Mitch Hathaway in the second round. Sorry.
Yeah, and Hathaway, well, he is not registered so much for the series. He just wanted to show up and have a crack. The formation lap is underway, and so you do have a look at the team standings there. So that'll be a quick look. We'll go over that after this race that is about to start. So we'll tick over to what's going on the circuit. Rhodey, why don't you run us through the grid here for race 1?
Alrighty, starting off pole for race 1 at Winton is Dwayne Davies in the D2 Racing Repsol Ford Focus. Just behind him is Brenton Foley, the first and the only actual qualifying cars from the FCR Motorsport Corolla stable. Third is Netherealmian in the Outward Camel Racing Alfa Romeo. Not a bad showing from him. Fourth is Termo in the Kuprakai Racing car. Also not a bad performance from Termo. Steve Bolger in 5th, and actually it looks like Cracker out of pace, out of position slightly there. But yeah, Steve Bolger in 5th in the second of the Corporal Car Racing cars. Good bit of teamwork there, and I think more the setup master of the team from what Tomo was saying earlier. 6th, that makes more sense, is Cracker in the Cracker Racing team car. Still only the one of the two Cracker Racing teams say it we've seen so far. Hopefully the second car comes in the next few rounds. 7th is Wayne in the first of the Monster Racing Ford Focuses. 8th is Manuel Centino doing a little better, partially due to the qualifying results in the Razor Racing, actually in his Razor Racing car this round. 9th is Matt Williams, first of the non-qualifying cars in the FCR Motorsport Corolla. Good return for him. 10th is Brendan Ross in the second of the FCR non-qualifying Corollas. 11th is Kalen Duncan in the MPC Castrol Racing Audi. He will have his own car coming in the next few rounds. 12th is Glenn Miles in the Playboy Camel Racing Alfa Romeo. And last and out of position, but he should rectify himself with his pace, is Liam Spencer in the second of the Monster Racing Chem Block Ford Focuses.
Sorry about that, I had myself muted, but just to go over to the differences between the two Monster Ford Focuses is that Wayne has the purple rims and Liam has the blue rims. Alright, we're just about formed up here on the grid, just waiting for someone who's slightly out of position. Looks like it is Liam at the back of the field, just trying to find his grid spot. A tip that I've used every now and again is I'll move, because in the server you cannot change from cockpit view. I change to the car in front of me sometimes and go to the TV camera and find out where to brake and put my car. Anyway, lights are on. And away we go, and the initial jump has gone to Foley. A lot of wheel spin, but he's going to have the whole shot around the outside. Davies does have the inside, late on the brakes, but cannot make it up. So Foley into the lead already.
Yeah, that was a good jump from Foley from the outside of row 1 to get past Dwayne. And Dwayne was very nice in not making it too difficult from his early stage. Obviously, you don't want to be damaging cars on the first corner of the first lap. Behind him, everything seemed to go pretty well as well. The only car that had a really poor start was Centino, but I believe that was deliberate because he did pull off to the grass to let everyone else through. I think he recognised it was probably better to let them through there rather than have them try and force their way through on the opening lap. So at the moment, Foley leads Wayne, Davey, Netherealmian, Tomo, Cracker, and Rossi already up to 6th place.
Yeah, Ross has had a solid start. Matt Williams not so. He's still stuck in 9th place and hounding Wayne there in 8th. But Foley leads away. A little bit of a gap over Dwayne Davies. And what is going to be, I think, the important thing, we've said it in both the rounds so far, has been the tyres. And once again, it's going to be important around here that you don't just floor it on the exit or in the mid corner of every one of these corners, because you're going to want some tyres toward the end of each race, and traction is going to be vital around here.
And that's the thing as well, is that Foley, and we talked about it, and I think we're going to keep talking about it whenever we're discussing tyres, is that in previous seasons he's been making full use of in-race adjustability.
Oh, sorry to cut you off, but we've had it's Termo and Cracker were racing, and into turn 10, I think Cracker tried to have a little bit of a move, and in the end, both Cracker and Termo outbraking themselves, and that's allowed Rossi now up into P4 and his teammate up into P7, battling with Wayne.
Yeah, I checked that back as well. That was actually, I thought there would have been contact, but they actually both went wide by themselves, which gave Rossi an open door to get straight back up now. Now seen up in 4th with, I believe, Bolger on his tail. Yeah,
so now all Rossi really has to do, chase down Nether, but that's about actually big slide for Nether there into, I'm trying to work out, I think that's turn number 5 there. Had a big slide, that will certainly cost him a bit of time here. Turn 5, losing a bit of time. And losing 6/10 in fact to Brendan Ross just in that one sector with that slide. That said, he's not too far away from Davies. He did say he was 2 seconds away, but actually looks a little bit closer than that going by the TV camera.
Yeah, I think we're getting, some of these times going to start to ebb and flow early on as the rears in these cars start to heat up, and some drivers are a little better driving with essentially the rears on Macca's trays than others are. And we're going to start seeing ebb and flow. We'll start to see the gaps solidify and start to see real pace come out of these cars in the next couple of laps. But then we'll have an idea of whether people are going to be, whether we're seeing straight pace, whether Rossi's going to actually be catching Nether and Nether catching Dwayne and all that sort of stuff.
We've got a big battle going on at the moment between Williams and Wayne. William up the inside at turn 11 and up into P6. And Wayne now going to come under a little bit of pressure from Cracker, who's down a couple spots. Obviously, he went off the road with Turmo for a bit of an excursion. It looks like a little bit of contact between Liam Spencer and Turmo at the back there. Has seen the rear end of the Cupra go flying off. So Caelan Duncan's had a very quiet start, and he's sitting in 9th place at the moment. Was struggling in practice, but still got all his wheels on his wagon at the moment and doing all right.
He does. He admitted to me privately that he's having trouble finding the groove in these things, and without having a proper team or anything to bounce out of, he's sort of really stuck in a rut at the moment. So, look, best advice I gave him was just go out there and set lap times. And look, he's doing all right, partially because everyone else is falling off around him, but he's getting some good chance to just get out there, get some laps in these things. They're different. He's debuted with us in the Super 2, and obviously they're very different cars to these things. And yeah, he's had a chance to race with some guys. We gave him the target of trying to beat Glenn and race with Glenn, and he's so far, fingers crossed, he's doing that.
Yeah, just in front of him at the moment. Liam stuck behind Glenn as well. Side by side there through turn number 9. Liam with the better exits just got his nose in front, but Glenn, well, it looks like he might have actually just got out of the throttle there. So Liam now up into 11th, and he's got Turmo, who's battling with Caelan just in front of him. Also got Cracker and Wayne duking it out, and Matt Williams has already caught the back of Steve Bolger, who's in 5th.
Yeah, Matt, good charge up to the field. Obviously not quite as great as we've seen from Rossi, but the advantage for Matt is that he's still got a character chase at this point. He's right at Bolger's trumpet as opposed to Rossi. You've still got anywhere from 2 to 3 seconds between him and Nether, and Rossi's been in no man's land as it stands anyway. Just the next car behind him is Steve Bolger. So here's Matt trying to put a nose on the inside, and I think he's got fairly easily done. Actually, no. Bolger's got to run on the outside. He's going to try and come back through. They're going to try going too wide through turn 5.
Well, you can sort of carry a little bit more speed when you're running around the outside there. You just got to trust the guy on your inside that he doesn't just outbrake himself and send you off out in the sticks, which Williams put his trust in Bolger, and it was all placed because he holds on to P5, but he's got a massive gap to his teammate Ross. So 7 seconds between himself and Ross down the road, and if he was to go 7 cents backwards, he'd actually find himself down a few spots as there's contact between himself and Bolger. He's very, very late on the brakes, and Williams is going to be frustrated with that because it's, that's down both behind Cracker and behind Wayne, who just worked really hard to get by. So we'll just have a look at that from the rear end of Matt Williams' Toyota Corolla. I can't see too much from that angle, but yeah, it looks like Bolger just a bit too aggressive and trying something that just wasn't quite there. It'd be frustrating for Williams, but probably wasn't going to catch Ross anyway with the massive gap in front of him. But still, he'd want to get away from this pack and just run his own race.
Yeah, I mean, we say that, and in the last lap, I was nearly something worth cutting to. Nether made a mistake, I believe, somewhere near the gum tree and actually lost a couple of seconds to Ross, who was right behind him, but then Ross went wide at the second to last corner and basically gave those 2 or 3 seconds back. And so that pace, that track, as I said, is ebbing and flowing still as cars are finding pace. Nether, actually, might be just the timing. No, Nether's actually off on the inside of turn 5, so Rossi has got past him.
Yeah, so just cut to a replay of that. I was just looking at the first splits. On the last lap, Foley had set the fastest lap, or the second fastest lap. The lap before he'd set the fastest lap. But he was in the 1 minute 30s. But we'll just see on the replay what Nether has done here. Running comfortably in 3rd, and he's just lost the rear end at turn 5 there. Had to save it, then got on the grass, and sort of had that half spin, gassed it up to straighten the car up, but the damage was done. And up now goes Brendan Ross, up into 3rd place, 7.5 seconds behind Dwayne Davies, and about 10 seconds behind his teammate in the lead.
I believe somewhere in that last lap as well, or last half a lap, Cracker, I'm going to gauge based on how close it was, possibly contact with either Williams or Wayne Spencer, but Cracker's now sitting back in 11th.
Just gone to a replay of that. He's just lost it under braking at turn number 9. Sorry, no, turn number 7 actually. So coming out of turn 5 and 6, just lost the back end. It wasn't quite stable when he hit the brakes, and around he went. So disaster for him. Qualified okay. Got through the first lap okay, but from lap 2 onwards, it's been a bit of a disaster, unfortunately, for Cracker. He finds himself now in 11th, and behind Liam.
Just watching Wayne and Matt Williams, and Matt got so close to hitting the turn 2 tyre barrier on the outside. A lot of cars have been killed there. Actually, the last time we raced here in Super 2 last season, I ran into that and then came right back into the path to Matt Williams, so he'll be getting nightmares going past that tyre bundle. But yeah, he's been up on the back of Wayne, and Wayne's been holding him off, not overly aggressively. He's just been putting the car he needs to, getting apexes where he needs to keep Matt Williams behind. And I think Matt maybe needs to calm down a little bit, because I think he's getting, when he is up the back of Wayne, he is looking maybe a little bit too racy. He's trying really hard to get a pass done. He has got the pace for it, but he needs to try and get it done a little cleaner so that he gets it done sooner rather than later.
Yeah, it certainly does. Behind them, Termo's sort of made his way back up into 7th place behind Williams, and there's Bolger, his Cooper Kai teammate, and then we've got a little bit of a battle pack forming now behind Kalen Duncan with the recovering Cracker. As well, just as I say that, Kalen runs wide in the exit of turn 10 and allows both Liam and Cracker to go by.
Are we going to chalk that one up to a commentator's curse?
Nah, there's no curses, it's just people forgetting how to drive. But at the front, the gap sort of stabilised. I did have a look, and it was under 2 seconds for a little bit, but sort of stabilised now at the 2.3 second mark. So 10 minutes to go, about halfway through the race. We'll start seeing the tyres just start to fall away, and in the next 5 minutes we'll certainly see who's started to look after their tyres a little bit better than the other, between Foley and Davies, and in fact all those guys in the midfield as well.
The advantage of this track, unlike last round at Barbagallo, is that the tyre wear is a lot more even side to side here. There's a lot of there's fast lefts and fast rights, and medium lefts and medium rights. So the tyre wear doesn't get too much out of skew one side to the other. So it should be a little easier for Foley to handle. But as I started to say earlier, before everything went to kerfuffle, previous seasons Foley's relied on the ability to change his car mid-race to adjust to the tyre grip that he has available. He hasn't had that. That's been taken away from this season, and he has struggled in some races so far. He's improved, but he has still struggled in some races with that. And Dwayne's had, aside from maybe Nether, I think he's had the best tyre life of the top 5 that we've seen at most our races so far. Rossi driving a similar style of setup to Foley means that he is also liable at the end of a session. So Foley does have a good cushion gap of between 2 and 3 seconds on Dwayne. It's just a case of how long that's going to last. It's a 15-minute race, so we are... sorry, a
20-minute race.
20-minute race. Sorry, I was thinking the laps. It's a 15-lap race, sorry. So we reckon it's about a 15-lap race. So we're about halfway through. In the next couple of laps, we should get an indication of where Foley's tyre life really is at least compared to Dwayne's, and whether he starts to fall into the clutches of that D2R Ford Focus.
Yeah, we just, as we're talking, just cut to a replay. We did see on the standings that Bolger dropped down from behind Termo to down to 11th place. He did the same thing Netherealmian did just a few laps ago down there at turn 5. Just lost the rear end a little bit, ran wide and got onto the grass. And once you're on the grass, you can't really get it back without being really, really cautious. So that's why he's now down in 11th place. On a big battle forming. So we already have one between Williams and Wayne, and also Liam. He's got Cracker right behind him as well.
Yeah, it seems to be a trademark of the Spencer family that they create some action behind them, because we've got both of them engaged in a battle, both of them with, less so in the case of Matt, but both of them with faster cars behind them, and we've got Cracker trying to put a pass now on Liam.
Certainly do. He's going to try and go around the outside at turn 10. Cracker's giving him a lot of space. But Cracker, the slightly better exit, is in front. But again, Liam just still having a look up the inside for turn 11. Not quite close enough to make the move. Cracker doing a good job of holding on for now. Is right behind them once again. Kalen just running wide, outbraking himself. And Bolger doing the same thing. They're almost running off the road, but certainly costing himself some time.
Yeah, so it gives Cracker and Liam now has a chance to sort of run up from those two. Both of these drivers should have been higher up at this point in the race. So we saw Cracker's pace, and we saw he was up there with Wayne and Matt Williams, which he's actually not. He's just 6 seconds off the back position-wise. He's not too far off where he was a few laps ago. Liam obviously qualified ahead of Wayne, but a shuffle which was possibly due to him switching back to his car that shuffled into the back meant that he's had to basically start from square one again and basically forego qualifying.
Yeah, in R Factor or in Automobilista, if you change car or an upgrade after qualifying, it will reset all the times that you set because it sees you pretty much in a new car. So that is why he started from the back of the field. It just gave him a random position. So drivers that didn't set a lap time, it gives you just a random position on the grid.
The only consolation being that with the two reverse grid races coming up after this one is that even if he doesn't finish ahead of his dad in this race, he will start ahead of his dad next race. And he's got the pace, not quite to be top 3 or top 5, possibly in the top 5, but he's coming on pretty well with pace. And we've got something
yeah, Williams and Wayne very, very late on the brakes, both of them. Both of them running wide. Wayne running off the road. And Williams was able to just pull it up and, I guess you could say outfoxed Wayne there, forced him into a mistake while also making a mistake, but his wasn't quite as bad. It's also elevated turbo now up into P6, so Matt Williams getting the job he needed to do done, but certainly cost him a little bit more time than what he would have hoped. That said, he's got 13 seconds to Nether up the road, and barring a massive mistake, which, to be fair, Nether has made, or a bit of tyre fade, he's not really going to catch that gap up. But that said, Williams a big slide there at turn 5. Turmo is going to be a big threat to him. We did see Turmo starting from 4th position on the grid. So that will be one battle to look out for. Now, I was having a look at the lap times, and the gap had come down to about 2 seconds, but Dwayne has, as you can see, 5.3 seconds behind Foley on this lap. So he lost 9/10 in the first sector, and then almost, I think there's 1.7 in the middle sector. So
I suggest an issue at turn 5, then possibly went wide at the exit of turn 5, because at the end of turn 5 is where that timing sector split exists.
So we're just going to we're just going to go back and find what's happened here. So it looks like he's done what Nether did. So just have a look at the first chicane and see. No, he hasn't made a mistake there. So yeah, turn 5, he's just ran too wide. And it wasn't too good through turn 4 either, but yeah, just too wide and on the grass at turn 5, and that cost him time. And obviously, as I said, that would have compromised his time through the first and the second sector, which is a bit of a shame because he was starting to close in on Brenton Foley. It would have made it an interesting final 5 minutes plus an additional lap. That said, though, it's still 5 seconds, and perhaps a little bit of lap traffic or a little bit of luck, and Davies could get that back, but he certainly made it a lot harder for himself.
Yeah, he's going to have to need either those incidents or some very severe tide drop from Foley. And we know how Foley likes to throw his cars around, but I don't think that's going to really happen at this stage. So, yeah, without an external factor, I think, unfortunately, even though maybe our top 4 is set in stone at the time being.
Yeah, it looks to be that way, barring some catastrophic changes. So I've gone all the way back down to P10, where Bolger is holding on for dear life with Cracker all over the back of him. They made contact under braking at turn 4, so that's seen the rear bumper of the Cupra go away and off into the boonies, and the front splitter of Cracker's Cupra of his own also end off in the boonies, and a little bit of a mistake there from Bolger, out braking himself at turn number 7, has seen Cracker now move back into the top 10, and he'll be hoping to close up onto the back of Caelan Duncan, who hasn't been the fastest out there, but he certainly made a lot less mistakes than obviously both Cracker and Bolger, who have been a little bit quicker than him throughout practice and qualifying. So he's doing what he obviously needs to do to give himself a solid top 10 at the moment.
Yeah, and that's just what he needs at this point, is just laps in these cars to experience them. But what's helped exactly is he's been able to limit his mistakes, and it's probably because he's driving a bit more within himself. He's only pushing with maybe 9/10 because he knows the track, but he doesn't know the cars all that well and their relationship to the track, as opposed to Cracker and Steve Bolger, who, and obviously like Liam as well, who are racing hard to make up spots that they should not be in. or to get themselves out of spots they shouldn't be, and actually have an incentive to push harder. As opposed to Kalen, whose only thing to chase really is the little green bar in his positive negative timing sector split thing. I forget what that's called at the moment, the delta bar. But that's the only thing he's got to chase really at the moment. So he is in control of his own destiny, as it were.
But even still, like, it's still time to be found. Obviously, he's not too experienced in these cars. I'm not sure about the circuit, but certainly, obviously, with these cars, he's not too experienced. So the more laps he does, the more experimentation he does. I don't think finishing position matters all that much. But if he can find just a little bit of time, see, in the last minute and a half plus additional lap as well, he could find himself in a much better position pace-wise in the remaining 2 races. So that even though he might be a little bit out on his own, it's still vital that he goes out there and pushes hard in the remaining couple laps.
Exactly. They're just going to give him more experience up his sleeve to then utilise in future races here and obviously future races in the rest of the season.
Certainly. Well, the closest battle on track is between Matt Williams now, who's just set a personal best, actually, a 32.6. Obviously, he's been bottled up behind cars for the majority of the race. It's only really been the last 2 or 3 laps where he's had a little bit of clear air in front of him. So he's travelling along nicely, but he's being hounded by Turmo, who is trying to recover after a shocking first half of the race. And Wayne's not too far away as well. So this is going to be something to look out for in the next 3 laps.
On pace, Turmo should be able to get him. Obviously, that last lap, Williams had a best of a 1:32.6. Turmo's had a 1:32.8, but his best was a 1:32.0. So, at least in green tyres in this race, he's been quicker than Matt Williams, but they both had some bad luck around some of the few sort of close racing happenings that we've seen in this race. Turmo's got the pace, at least on paper, to beat Williams. So it depends on where the tyre life is at. Turmo doesn't tend to use a lot of his tyres. But the real question is Matt Williams, because we haven't seen what he's like in these new cars yet. If he's driving a similar setup to the other Corollas in Rossi and Foley, we expect to see his tyres drop off a bit more aggressive in the cars around him. But being the elder statesman of the team, he's got a bit more experience head on his shoulders. He's possibly gone for a bit of a more conservative tyre life based setup. And he might actually start to really come into his pace now, even as the tyres start to go down, because the fuel is also coming down as well.
And I think another thing to look out for as well, I think Turmo is a little bit more timid when racing other cars, and as we've seen with Matt Williams in particular, he's very, very aggressive when defending, and, well, just around other cars in general when there's a position involved. So he's not going to make it easy for Turmo, and while Turmo generally doesn't really push the tempo and try and force positions. So I think in this little battle, Turmo's probably just going to wait for a mistake from Williams, which he's just made a little slight one there at turn 5, which has allowed Turmo to get a lot closer. But Williams certainly not going to make it easy for him, and certainly not going to give him any free kicks, while other drivers may not quite play the same game as what Williams does in terms of the aggression.
Yeah, each driver's all have their own different defensive style. Some of them we don't necessarily have one at all to a point. Obviously, Nether's been sort of, in the last couple of months, has been proclaimed as the king of defensive driving when it comes to not being overtaken. Matt, though, obviously a quite stubborn defender as well. And yet Turmo, unless using communication, he knows really well who he's passing. Like, he has no issues putting up my own side as an example, or someone like Cam Rutledge, his teammate over at CRE. But that's not going on well with Matt. But they're not in constant communication, so he's less likely to just stick the nose at the inside coming into a corner. So Turmo is going to do this more by the book if he does get a chance to get a pass done. But we are now on to the last lap of the race, so time is running out for him.
Yeah, we are on the final lap. The gap between, obviously, first and second has come down. Obviously, there was Manuel Santino between first and second, so a little bit of traffic that Foley had to deal with. But at the same time, I think Foley's just taking a little bit easy, not quite pushing the car as hard as what he has to. And obviously, the tyres starting to fall off as well. So the gap back under 4 seconds. Davies will push him to the line, but it should be a Brenton Foley win. He's only got turns 11 and 12 to navigate. No traffic in front of him to worry about. And after getting the perfect getaway into the lead, he to be fair, hasn't really been headed too much from Dwayne Davies, and he'll take race 1 this evening from Winton Motor Raceway.
Yeah, a great win by Brendan Foley. Unfortunately, a bit of a quiet one. He didn't, aside from obviously that starting couple of laps, he didn't have to do a lot for it. Just keep driving consistently, and it seems he's worked out his tyre issues as well to a point as well, which puts him in good stead, but is going to worry the cars around him, maybe his own teammates, so that he doesn't have that drop off of pace. Someone who is dropping off in pace right now is Matt Williams. He ran wide through the last left-hander out of the.
Oh, a little bit of a lock-up at turn 11. Well. Turmo's going to have a look up the inside. And I might see Wayne also have a little bit of contact. Williams ain't going to be happy. He's kept his foot in. They're going to go 3 wide. And in fact, Wayne might even just sneak in front of Turmo. He's not going to. But I don't think Matt Williams will be too pleased with that one, though. And a little bit of contact sending him off the road there at the final corner, dropping him 2 spots. But that's outbrake himself at turn 11 certainly didn't help. Also got Nether sort of doing a little jig there and caught in the wall, in the alternate pit lane there. But we did see Dwayne Davies cross the line in 2nd. Brendan Ross in 3rd. See Nether in 4th. Sermo there stealing 5th in the end. Wayne in 6th. Williams in 7th. Will be unhappy with that final lap there. Liam Spencer is finishing 8th. Caelan Duncan holds on to a top 10 with a P9. So well done on JB for him. Cracker could have been a lot better for him, but still getting a top 10 in the end there. Bolger showing his displeasure about that one. Down 6 spots from where he started in 11th. And then Glenn Miles in 12th with Manuel Santino down in 13th, the final of the finishes.
It wasn't the sort of race that we've been used to seeing so far, and I think it was, I don't know whether it was the track or whether maybe it was the drivers in this instance, but the racing wasn't as close as we saw some close battles with a couple of cars, but it wasn't quite a steam train like we've seen at some of the tracks previously. And it might just be the later Winton, more corners, more chances to break up that train, as opposed to something like Barbagallo last round, where it's basically a solid run all the way from the bowl all the way to the first corner, aside from that right-hander at the bottom of the hill. This track doesn't flow as much, and that's probably what we're seeing. But some good little mini battles, but not quite the action we're used to seeing on a bigger scale. Yeah,
certainly not the battling that we've seen throughout the season, but I think just the nature of Winton just sort of showing out in the end there. Obviously, there's a lot of places where you can make up and where you can lose time, and you can't really get into a flow like you can Barbagallo. With Barbagallo, all the corners are very samey and all kind of flowy, and you can carry speed into them and out of them. Well, here at Winton, obviously you've got to be good under braking. You've got to utilise the curbs, and then you've got obviously in the middle sector as well at turn 5. You've got some quicker corners that you've got to really look after. That front right, and you can't really outbrake yourself. You've got to be smooth so you don't lose the back end into turn 5, where we did see a number of drivers off onto the grass on the outside there after having a little moment in sort of the turn-in phase of turn 5. So, and then of course turn 6 again, the transition 5, 6, and 7. You've got to be really, really good under braking. You've got to have that car settled, and drivers that have confidence are able to brake a bit later and carry speed through 7, while other guys may not be quite as confident with the car, and that's another spot where you can just lose up a lot of time. So that is, I think for me, they're the reasons why we see just a bigger field spread here compared to what we've seen, obviously at Barbagallo and at SMP.
Yeah, it's almost as if rather than driving a connected car, these cars almost drive as if someone's driving a Segway with a trailer on it, because the rear end does nothing aside from balance out the front. And it's a weird turn 5, because most cars expect to see a corner like that, unless they've got a lot of power rear-wheel drive cars, you normally see understeer through a corner like that. So for these things to step out into oversteer through there, it's weird. And then there's a weird cars to work with, because of the front-wheel drive, because of the weight over the front. The rears are just there to stop the thing going nose high every time you drive it, basically. It's like... like anyone who's seen the Top Gear limo special, at the very start, Jeremy starts building his limo out of I think it was like a Fiat Panda, And the first thing he did was chop the thing in half, and then went for a drive with the car with just the 2 front wheels. And because it's a front wheel drive car, it drove exactly the same. It just made a shower of sparks from the broken bit in the middle which he cut off. Yeah, for anyone used to, these cars are not like anything else that we've got in the AMSOZ rostrum. It's Super 2 and Super cars, which are essentially the same cars. Rear-wheel drive, high power, fairly low grip for what the power they've got touring cars. GT3, lot of aero, rear-wheel drive, variety of engine locations, but all rear-wheel drive, so they all handle a degree of similarity. TDC, radicals in appearance, but more based on, I suppose, a low downforce, moderate grip, moderate power setup. So actually, lap times, I've compared them at Barbagallo, they're actually not too different to the TSAT cars, which at the moment are 4-wheel drive. They're the closest thing that we've got to these, because they do exhibit some front-wheel drive tendencies at times when you're coming out of corners. They love to push understeer. But yeah, these cars are a hard thing to get your handle on. And for those, and you can kind of see who's been here a while in these things, people like Dwayne, Rossi, Nether, Foley as well. Some of them been here since the TCC days. But for the new guys, like Kalen's example, if you're not used to front-wheel drive cars, it's a bit of a mountain to climb.
Yeah, certainly driving a front-wheel drive car is a completely different kettle of fish to see a rear-wheel, obviously driven car. Obviously, the big thing is the right foot. It controls everything. See, braking, and obviously if you're a left foot braker, it is braking is important. But the main way you can gain and lose time is with throttle control. So if you don't want to lose the rear end, again, it's all about your right foot. And as soon as you're off the brake and you've stopped downshifting, you've got to be on the throttle. Even just a couple, 5 or 10%, you've still got to be on the throttle, because the off throttle, obviously the way the diffs are, the off throttle oversteer in these things is quite severe, and it can be quite challenging when you've come from a obviously rear-wheel drive background to obviously drive these cars where as soon as you get off the throttle, the car wants to spin around on you, because that's how they turn.
Yeah, the front to rear rate transfer in these things is the best I can think of, and it wasn't even this bad, is the sort of old, very loosely sprung cars. The Formula V I used to race is a good example. Through transit at Sandon, you had to be on the throttle, even if you weren't trying to go through there on the throttle, because the weight transfer would take all the weight off the rear, despite it being mid-engined, and the thing would want to loop much like these things. So you have to be on throttle to get the rear to settle. Otherwise, even fanning off the throttle into a corner pushes all the weight forward. And what little weight that is on the rear to begin with disappears. And yeah, I came up with this comparison today, and it's fairly apt. Unless the rear's loaded, you are driving around with the rear on a pair of Macca's trays.
Yeah, it's in a way Macca's trays, or you're driving a shopping trolley. The same kind of feel, where it's the rear wheels that are sort of driving the car when you're off the throttle like that. So that's something, again, I think that's something that Kalen will be struggling with, and certainly whenever we have people drive these cars for the first time, it's something that it takes quite a while to get a hold of. And even if you've driven these cars like a while ago and you did a lot of driving in them, coming back to them from driving a supercar or just a rear-wheel drive car in general, it can be quite difficult, even if you've driven them in the past.
Yeah, they are very, very unique cars to adjust to, and it takes some time for some drivers.
Yeah, so hopefully, obviously, we see Kalen, as the weekend goes on, is able to get a little bit more comfortable and find a little bit more pace. He'll also be hoping for a little bit more luck and to keep it on the road a little bit more. Just like Steve Bolger, who had a bit of a rough run. Same with Cracker, who was up there early on in a decent position, but went off in the boonies there, down there at the penultimate corner. Anyway, we're just about to get things going for the warm-up, but we'll just have a short little break, but we shall be back in a couple of minutes' time for a little bit of a rundown in the warm-up, and then obviously race 2. Don't go anywhere. All right, and welcome back to round 3, the Automobilist Australia TCR Australia series from Winton Motor Raceway up in the sticks in sort of northwest eastern Victoria. All right, Rhodey, we've had one race done and dusted with Brenton Foley taking a win, with Dwayne Davies not having his best run of the season, still picking up some really good points there in second place. And then, obviously, Brendan Ross recovering nicely to finish third as well. So good points for the FCR Motorsport team.
Yeah, it's a fairly good points, and what's going to help the team now as well into the future if he is coming back and based off his recurrent appearances in TDC, I think it will be. Having that third car, Matt Williams, in there also to drag points in for the team will help them in the team championship. They are, I believe, they're not obviously not the only team in the team's championship, but they are in a position where not too much is really challenging them. I think that is not the right team's points. Yeah, the next, I think team's points. So the next biggest team behind them is maybe Kuprakai. Outward Camel would be a bigger combatant, but Mike is unfortunately not available.
Yeah, it is on the screens at the moment. FCR Motorsport coming into this round on 356 points. Kuprakai on 288. So Kuprakai were within striking distance. Obviously, both their drivers being at every round, I believe, and picking up points whenever they can, but they just quite haven't got that lead driver to sort of bring back that points deficit. But yeah, they find themselves coming into this round anyway, 50 points in front of Outworld Camel Racing, which is unfortunately down to one driver, with Nether flying the flag for Outworld Camel Racing. Obviously, D2R being a single car outfit, it's done a good job to obviously find himself just behind Outworld Camel Racing. Obviously, Mike Coulson did race, I believe, in the first round and picked up, I think, 30 points, which is those 30 points vital for Outworld Camel Racing, because that's obviously only 7 points in front of D2R prior to this round. GNF Racing on 130, big gap between 4th and 5th. Obviously, both single car outfits, as is Cracker Racing Team on 90. Monster Racing, we should see them move up the points standings with both the Spencers, Liam and Wayne in that car as well. They were on 76 points prior to this round. Something tells me they'll probably find themselves in front of Cracker Racing Team by the end of the night, and probably even in front of GNF Racing as well. So GNF probably moved down behind Cracker and Monster Racing, and Monster will probably find themselves in P5 after this round is done. That's provided, of course, they all finish. Also got MP Sim Sports solo car entry with Thomas Paul on 72 points. And then we have Playboy Camel Racing, which does have 2 drivers, but Glenn Miles has been the only driver for Playboy Camel Racing to race so far on 48 points. And Bundaberg Racing, again, another solo entry in the Honda Civic on 44 points with Darren O'Brien, the sole driver there. All right, and that gives us we've got about 30 seconds until the server ticks over for race number 2, the reverse grid race. We've got Matt Cecil has actually joined the server. Hasn't gone out for a lap time yet, but looks like his first lap is going to be a race lap. But
yeah, he has been having issues with the track file, which I was trying to help sort with him during the break. Believe all he needed to do was an extra file name somewhere out of a folder for the file to be in, and it seems to have worked fine for him. So more, I suppose, of the weirdness or the uniqueness of the R factor based file structure. But in the end, we have now got 14 cars.
Yeah, got 14 cars. He's just left the pit, so it looks like his steering wheel and pedals are working. But that's on your screen, as you can see, the calendar for the series. And it is slightly, it's all out by 1 week. So as you can see, I do have to update that. But if you just advance 1 week on the right-hand side there. See, we are at Winton Raceway. Next round will be the Bend, which will be the first time an Automobilista Australia series will head to the South Australian circuit. And then another new circuit for the drivers to tackle, Autodromo Riccardo Paletti in Italy. Very stop-starty kind of circuit with some medium straights and some chicanes. I reckon there'll be plenty of action around that circuit because you can pass at pretty much every corner if you're in the right position. Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit. Obviously, we all know and love that one. Although in a TCR car, it is quite difficult with lots of long corners that you can lose the rear end in, Rody.
Yeah, it's a place that I've been doing some running around it recently. I think last night I jumped in one of the F3 cars we used in a bit of just a bit of a silly season race, I suppose, on Sunday. Anything with a lot of downforce and grip, Phillip Island is, even without a lot of grip, Formula V's, it's a dream because you go flat through turn one and it takes you half a day to get the confidence to do it, but when you do it, it feels so nice. The car just tucks in, you get full suspension compression, and it's lovely. But in these things, like we've seen them around turn 5 here, they love to get the rear out at really inappropriate moments. And turn 1 at Phillip Island is a really inappropriate moment to lose the rear. So I guarantee the cars will do it at some point.
Yeah, we did have a big accident between, I think it was... I think, sorry, just looking at in-game chat there, I think we had a big accident between Turmo and I think it was Bolger last season in TCR down at turn 1. Hopefully it doesn't happen again this year. Obviously they're both teammates, which will be not so good for the team. And then obviously Brian Walsh Raceway. So those that don't know too much about Automobilista Australia. See, Simmons Plains Raceway has been renamed in the Tasmanian, well, for the Tasmanian himself. Brian Walsh, a member here at Automobilista Australia, and that's now his raceway. He lives not too far away from the circuit. Then we have Hidden Valley, which these cars haven't been to before. And then Sandown Raceway, where we had some decent racing last season as well. But those final 2 rounds, though, Rody, they're going to be very, very interesting with both those circuits suiting these cars to a T, I reckon.
Yeah, and it's going to be those last rounds especially. Yeah, they're going to really agree with these cars. These cars are a bit more of a preference for low-speed corners because there's less chance for the rear to go on them. Sandown especially, fairly high-speed track in the grand scheme of things. The only real place that's going to be a bit of fun, especially at Sandown, is going to be turn 6. But turn 6 is fun in nearly everything you throw at it. But yeah, if again that weight transfer, and if some of them get off the throttle into turn 6, they're going to find themselves backwards. And even without the new runoff area that's been built into the actual Sandown, they would still hit a tyre barrier. So I expect the turn 1, the lap 1 shenanigans at Sandown to be a bit of fun, but we are a good couple of months away from that just yet.
Yes, and we have just ticked over to the race session. I didn't have any cars appear on my screen, so it looks like the server was just syncing. So it looks like there may have been just some issues with the internet there, or with the server, but thankfully everybody now back in the game, and we are awaiting the drivers to form up onto the grid and to get us going here for race 2. Just Manuel Centino and also got Matt Williams there, I do believe, in the pits as well. Matt Williams has made it out onto the circuit. Now I'm just waiting to see if Manuel has. Well, it's gone to race, and Manuel's still in the pits.
He did talk about pulling off from the start of this race to let everyone through. He might have opted potentially to do a pit lane start.
Yeah, that's a little bit more severe than just asking the admin if he can just start from the back of the field, which would have easily been sorted. But obviously he's going to start from the pit lane, or he indeed has just been a little bit AWOL when we switched over to the race session. So in that case, Rudy, why don't you run us through the grid here for race 2?
All right. Well, obviously, Manuel Centeno, we've just mentioned, was meant to start this race first, coming last. Second is Glenn Miles, and currently on the grass in the Playboy Camera Racing car, trying to warm those rears up, and we're a little too excited. Third place is Steve Bolger. Good turnaround, I suppose, for him after not an ideal first race, so yeah, it does now start off the second row. Next to him will be Cracker, another car out of position in that first race, but hopefully get a chance to put themselves back where they belong or feel they belong in the second race, coming out of fourth. Fifth, Kalen Duncan. We expect to see him probably drop through the grid, but he should hopefully, a lot of quick drivers around him, he'll get a chance to learn some lines off of and learn some car control off of. Hopefully this puts him in good stead for the future. Liam Spencer in sixth, more like his actual, I think this was actually might have been where he qualified for the first race, so a bit of redemption for him now. Matt Williams in seventh. He'll be coming up through the field in the first of the FCR Motorsport Corollas. Eighth is Wayne in the sister Monster Racing Ford Focus. Ninth is Termo in the second Cupra Kai Racing Seat. 10th is Netherealmian in the Outward Camel Racing Alfa Romeo. 11th is Brendan Ross in the second FCR Motorsport Corolla. 12th is Dwayne Davies in the G2 Racing Ford Focus. 13th is Brenton Foley, race 1 winner in the last FCR Motorsport Corolla. And last on the grid is Matt Cecil in the other NPC Castrol car. He's in the number 97 that was driven by Liam McAdam, as opposed to Kalen Duncan in the 100 that was driven by Russell Winkle.
Yep, so we do have Santino waiting in the pits. Hopefully he doesn't leave when the red light is on, otherwise he'll find himself disqualified. But the lights are on, and we're about to go racing for race 2 here in Winton. Away we go, and it looks like Bolger's had a decent start. Cracker's had a flyer, and he's split both Bolger and Miles, and he's going to go around the outside into the first chicane. He's got the lead, and thankfully no one off in the boonies as of yet. Everybody's through the first 2 turns cleanly, but Cracker and Bolger side by side into turn 3.
Yeah, we can see Glenn in the back trying to get in the way of drivers. That said, he looks like he just put a pass up the hill. Oh, there's contact. Most of the field. I think that's the big one that he called in NASCAR. Glenn Miles came across the front of Kalen Duncan, speeding it. Kalen then the side of him, who was behind Kalen, then to the back of him, and we've now got a 3-second gap between the leaders and the rest of the field.
Yeah, so it's a late braking move by Miles. Kalen had left him space, but he just sort of turned in a little bit on Miles, because Kalen sort of had nowhere to go. Also got Santino has got going again, but Cracker in the lead. They did have 2 seconds over Wayne. Wayne's had a solid start and he's now in third place. Bolger in fourth. Sorry, Termo in fourth. He's up 5 spots. Wayne's up 5 spots. Also got Foley doing one of his traditional starts. He's up 8 spots ahead of Spencer and ahead of Ross.
Yeah, Liam's done a right job actually to have a net 0 position loss within all the reshuffling of the grid. Obviously that.
And I've had that's Wayne's gone wide. Termo was compromised, and now that's Foley up another couple of spots. So now Foley up into the top 3 already, and looking the goods to take 2 from 2 already.
And we're just seeing a little bit of bumping from the pair of the Monster Racing Focuses. Obviously teammates now with Liam joining TCR, but no love lost between them. Very much like the Foley boat partnership in Super 2 last season.
Yeah, a little bit of contact between those guys. Oh, and that's one of them very very wide there. Wayne going for a little bit of an excursion over the curbs. The first chicane there. That's dropped him now down behind Ross and behind Liam. And Foley hasn't had an ideal first sector because he's got Termo still right there with him. He hasn't actually caught Bolger as fast as I thought, but expect that gap to come down. Liam sideways through turn 5. Ross sort of had nowhere to go. A little bit of contact between the two, and Spencer and Ross, a bit of contact between those guys as well, as Ross was sort of balked there by the other monster car. Dwayne Davies slowly picking his way up through the field as well. It's Ross and Wayne at the moment battling hard, and this is good news for Foley. Ross gets away, but I think Ross got a little bit of a nudge which sent him off the road there.
Yeah, a little bit of help there. I think, to be fair, it looked like Ross might have closed the door on Wayne. I'm not sure where Wayne was actually trying to make a pass or not, but there was a gap and then the gap disappeared, so that might have been retaliatory. I'm not sure. Ross has got the pace to catch him back up, but I would put that down a racing incident. Though if it wasn't, I imagine these two will sort it out over the next couple of laps.
Well, either way, got really late braking manoeuvre from Williams on Wayne. He's looking to get a move done, possibly exact some revenge on his teammate. Running very, very wide on the final corner. We'll try and find a replay actually of that incident to see what did happen with Brendan Ross there. So we cut to a different camera view. bring it up on screen. And yeah, bit of contact there. And that was, I think that's just on Spencer. That is a bump and run. He didn't try and even redress the position. Also got Wayne now right behind Liam Spencer. And we've also got Foley now ahead of Bolger. Thought it was going to take him a little bit longer to catch up, but well, a lap and a half, and he's now up into P2 as Cracker makes a mistake there at turn number 7. And once again, just encouraging Foley to take the lead already on lap 3.
Yeah, he's already made up 11 spots in what has come under 3 laps, possibly 12 by the end of this lap, so that's I think an average of 4 spots a lap. That's not bad going, even for a reverse grid race, to make up spots that quickly. And the good thing for him, doing this early as he can, as you see Bolger wide in the background, is that his next competition for the lead of this race is Dwayne Davies, who's still sitting back in 5th and 6 seconds behind Foley.
And he's just made a move on Liam Spencer there into turn 10. So Dwayne Davies getting up the field slowly, but yeah, still a fair ways off Foley. I'll just have a look here. 5.2 seconds between Davies and Foley at the moment. So he'll be hoping that Cracker can do a little bit of a number on a second place man Foley and just hold him up for a few laps and bring himself into play. So you see Foley pushing hard for the first chicane, a little bit sideways, a little bit ragged, but that's how he drives.
Oh, we've got Matt Williams and Wayne. They tried to Matt tried to put it on the inside of turn 1. Wayne fought back. They went too wide through there. Too wide again through turn 3. Well, Matt's got the inside run now through turn 4, but Wayne's not going to make it easy for him. Wayne's got the inside run, though, for turn 5, but you can get better speed, as we mentioned, from the outside. And he has actually tucked in, I think, Matt, but he might be going for an undercut.
Yeah, I think he was going to try and undercut there, but didn't have the ideal entry. He got a little bit sideways in the mid-corner. Again, a little bit sideways in the exit of turn 6. But I reckon we might see these two come to blows with the way these two drive in particular. So that's something to look out for. Further afield, Davies slowly catching the Cooper Guy duo. We've got now Foley into the race lead. Cracker is having a look into turn 10, but ultimately pulls out of it. So we'll just have a look on the replay, see what happened here. So it looks like a little bit of a mistake from Cracker. Yeah, lock up at turn number 7, running wide on the exit, and then up the inside on the exit, around the outside at turn number 8, and Foley now into the lead, and he's 4.7 seconds ahead of his championship rival Dwayne Davies, who is about 1.1 seconds behind Bolger, who's looking to make a move on his teammate.
I'd like to look further up the field, but it's hard to not to pull myself away from this battle. I believe in the last lap or so, I'm not sure if it was a legitimate pass or whether Matt let Rossi pass, but now Rossi is right on the back of Wayne, and as we saw from earlier, potentially some unfinished business in Rossi's mind. And when Rossi's pushed to it, he's not afraid to bring the elbows out. So we might see something in the next couple of laps, whether it just involves these two, whether it actually cascades and gets someone like Matt or even Nether, who's back there with them, tangled up in as well. Remains to be seen. Yeah,
Nether hasn't had a good start. He's not really moved forwards in this one, sitting in 10th place at the moment. I did just cut to a replay of the move that was made between the two FCR cars. It did look like Ross was let go by Williams. And Ross now right behind Wayne, who's also right behind Liam. Just up down the road. Davies right behind Bolger, who's right behind Sermo. And Cracker hasn't quite let Foley get away just yet, so he's doing a really good job at the moment. He's got a 3-second lead over Termo, so he's looking good for a podium if he can keep driving the way he is. As off in the background, both the FCR cars wide behind Wayne, but they haven't actually lost too much time. That said, Williams now under a bit of pressure from Netherealmian. He's going to try and go around the outside at turn 11, and it's going to be a difficult move to pull off. Ooh. And Williams holds on for now. Nether's going to try and get a little bit of a switch back and set up a decent exit for a run into turn 1. He is close enough to make a move into turn 1, but he's going to need a willing partner, and Williams normally isn't.
Oh, he's gone for it anyway, though.
He's gone for it anyway. A little bit of contact. Williams holds on for now. He's gone defensive immediately into turn number 3. And again, defensive into turn number 4, just blocking Nether at the moment. Not so much worrying about his teammate in front.
I think what's good for Nether is
and
that these two. Oh, he's wide, so that's going to let Nether. Actually, not quite. He's still
Wayne.
alongside.
We had
Sorry, I
Wayne.
was looking at Williams also went wide and let Nether through.
Yeah, so Wayne off at turn number 5, and obviously, as you said, Williams also off at turn 5 as well. So Ross now back up into 7th. Now he's chasing after Liam, who's run a little bit wide there at turn number 9. And Ross immediately right behind him as well. So very, very close between these guys. We've also got Caelan Duncan onto the back of this pack as well. So Caelan doing all right. And Cracker still out. It was 6/10 between himself and Foley, but Foley, that final sector, just eking out half a second. So that gap now 1.2 seconds at the front.
Yeah, what's interesting is that for the most part, he actually hasn't. Obviously, you didn't have an indicative pace of what Cracker was able to do in that first race with all the kerfuffles he caught up in. But he hasn't actually pulled too far off of Cracker. Cracker seems to be pulling fairly similar times to what Dwayne was ostensibly pulling behind Foley in the first race. Speaking
of Dwayne Davies, we didn't see the first move on Steve Bolger to get himself up into 4th place. But we did just cut to a replay of the move Dwayne Davies put on Turmo there into turn 10 to move himself into a podium position now. He finds himself 6.3 seconds behind Brenton Foley and 2.4 seconds after the first split to Cracker. In fact, setting a purple first sector there, Dwayne, and a couple of tenths faster than our race leader. So if you can...
just in the background, that's Liam Spencer very nearly collided with Brendan Ross. I think tried going for the inside and went on the brakes as the car was out of balance, which you talked about earlier. You have to get the car balanced into that corner. Came across the apex and very nearly slid right into the door of the Brendan Ross Corolla.
Yeah, so Ross had made the move there at turn 4, but coming out of 6 and at turn 7, just lost the back end. Thankfully, Ross was able to avoid him. But that's dropped now. Liam Spencer, well, he's still behind Brendan Ross, but he's got a very angry pack behind him with Nether looking to make a move now into turn 11. He's left the door open for the inside, and Nether obliges. And Nether now up into P7. Got Wayne running wide at the penultimate corner. That's allowed Williams through. And he's also got Caelan Duncan to think about right in his mirror as well after recovering.
Yeah, and Caelan's done a pretty good job. We mentioned that in that first race how he was just out there to try and get some laps in, but if nothing else, he's able to keep up with this battle pack, and part of it is because the pack is battling that hard that it slows itself down, but he's in a position where he can go for an overtake if he wants to, and that's just all part of the learning and it's good that he did admit that he's struggling with his cars, but he's starting to get to the pace of them fairly quickly.
Yes, is a good effort. He's putting Wayne under a bit of pressure now as Wayne just a bit rugged there through turns 3 and 4. But Liam trying to put pressure on Nether, but since Nether's got by, it looks like he's just going to eke away very, very slowly. Liam's going to have to start to worry more about Matt Williams in behind. Turmo and Steve Bolger, pretty much the exact same pace. They've not really extended or dropped any times to each other. Ahead of them, got Dwayne Davies now. He's within a second of Cracker in P2. He's lost a little bit of time to the race leader on this lap in the first sector. In fact, he lost lost about half a tenth and then another couple tenths in the middle sector to Foley, but that gap about 6.5 seconds to the lead. If he plays it smart though, he'll be hoping that Foley would have wasted his tyres a little bit harder trying to get through the field, and he can catch him towards the end of the race. There still is time to catch him, but not too much.
Yeah, his best hope is that Foley went hell for leather, which we saw him do with the spots he was making up, but the hope is that he really had to work for those overtakes that he got in the first couple of laps, and his tyres are going to start to fall off on the other side of the curve. But
he's making a move now after turn 3. He's going to have the inside for turn 4 as well. So he forced Cracker just to leave the door open because he had a little bit of an overlap into 3. But Cracker now will have the inside for turn 5. Will they both make it through? They do. They've both pulled it up nicely. But Davies around the outside is able to make the move work, and he's into second place. And we've got yellows out. It's not Foley.
Centino, I reckon.
And that is, in fact, Centino in the Razor Ford Focus. Hopefully he doesn't rejoin in front of anybody in a dangerous way. Looks like he's rejoining safely. And we've also got Brendan Ross now. He's right behind Steve Bolger in the second, I should say, of the Cooper Kais.
Yeah, Manuel's now dropping right off to the back of the grid. I believe it should be able to get back on now, but he's dropped back in behind Kalen Duncan, which he was at risk. He wasn't necessarily going to catch anyone to begin
Good
with, but he
exit
is now
from
a lap down on
Ross.
most of the cars.
Good exit from Ross. Bad exit from Bolger out of turn 9. And Bolger immediately to the inside. Ross feigning both sides to try and get a move done. Bolger again defensive coming into turn 11. Ross trying to feign again. Do the old Nigel Mansell Nelson Piquet maneuver. He's actually out Fox Bolger a little bit. Had the inside line into the final corner, but just backed out of it a little bit because he didn't want to cause contact. But as you can see, very, very impatient and wants to get by number 87 Cooper Kai racing car.
Yeah, we haven't sort of identified Steve as one of the hard people to try and pass, but Steve's been in the game a little while. He knows, he's got an idea of some of the tricks Rossi's going to try and pull. So unless Rossi's actually going for a pass, he's not likely to.
Rossi's had a good run through 3. He got a little bit of an overlap on the exit, and through goes Rossi. Had to look he did outbrake himself a little bit on the exit, but that sort of blocked Bolger from going through on the overlap. So Ross now up into P5, and with that battling going on, so that turbo just to break out about a second and a half compared to what it was before his teammate started battling with Ross. So now Bolger is going to have to contend with Nether, who hasn't had an ideal start to this race, but he's slowly moving his way up through the field. As we see Bolger wide there, Bolger wide there at turn 9, and they're going to go side by side into 10. Bolger will have the inside, and Nether will try and go around the outside. He gets the move done. Obviously, he had that speed, he's able to keep that momentum up, pull out in front of Bolger, and now into 6th place.
Yeah, I was about to start mentioning that pass, but you caught it before I got there. But yeah, Nether at this, the next person he's going to try and catch back up to again is Rossi, but Rossi seems to be eking out slightly better pace at this point in the race compared to Nether. And the gap at the moment, I think, is not far off 2 seconds between the two of them.
Yeah, I think their goal, for this race will be to try and catch Turmo right at the death of this race to try and sneak onto the podium. But about 5 seconds between, let's see, Turmo and Cracker. That's going to be very, very difficult task. Got a big, strong battle between Liam and Williams at the moment. Still continuing on. Williams hasn't been able to find a way past the 43 Monster Racing Focus. And in fact, Bolger's actually gone. I think he's had an off there because had Liam close right up. There was a couple second gap, and now it's absolutely nothing.
Yeah, and this is potentially going to actually impact Liam's side in a way because he's been able to focus for the last couple of laps. Well, not driving off his mirrors. That's where his focus has been, aside from lapping, is keeping Matt behind him. But now he's also got the potential.
Oh, and Bolger's wide. Bolger's wide at turn 9, and through goes Liam. He's looking to make that move as soon as possible, and now he's got a car between himself and Williams. It's just exactly what he would have wanted. Williams just making a little feigning move into the braking zone at turn number 10. Try and put Bolger off. They're all very wide on the grass. In fact, Duncan there in the back end, very, very wide. But Bolger now trying to make a move to get that P7 back, but Liam holding firm for now. Runs wide on the exit though, which has balked Bolger a little bit. And this pack is also allowing Wayne to close in as well. So we might see this form into a 4 or even 5 car battle pack if Kalen Duncan can catch up onto the back of it.
Yeah, there's not a lot of wheel-to-wheel racing as such. They're not slowing themselves down too much, but any mistake made by the front car, they're that close that everyone else checks up. So, look, Liam's doing a pretty good job. And yeah, you're right, he is in a good situation now because he has got a car spacing between him and Matt Williams. And Matt's, I don't think he's sort of getting... He'll probably be a little annoyed. I'm not going to go quite angry. He'll probably be a little just simmering gently below the surface that he hasn't been able to quite be as effective as he would like to be in this race. That he's been stuck up behind this Focus and now the stay out as well for the majority of this race. Yeah, the only problem then with having Bolger in the gap is Bolger has had decent pace at points in this race. And if he wants to make the pass back on Liam, it potentially opens the door for something to happen between those two, and then Matt Williams to finally get past that Monster Ford Focus.
Yeah, Williams though hasn't been able to. Just as I
very
say
wide.
that, Bolger just getting on the loud pedal, and that's what I mean about modulating that right foot. Obviously, that front left and the front tyres in particular on Bolger's Cupra are gone. And when you put your foot down with no tyres, all that happens is your front wheels spin up, you understeer wide, and you don't get any traction. So that is a perfect example of what happens when your tyres are worn and you try and put your foot down coming out of a corner. You go nowhere and you understeer. So that's him now, out of the top 10 after running a really good race for the majority of it behind his teammate Turmo.
Yeah, I think the Cupra Kai guys are going to have a look at the setup for the next race. Maybe have a look at the driving style that was implemented in this race compared to the last one, because the tyres seem to hold out fairly well in the last race, but he's still got 2 laps based off the last race's pace. He's got 2 laps left of this race, and his tyres, the fronts look to already be relatively gone or effectively gone. So the Cupra Kai guys are going to have to sit down and retune the setup a little bit to get a bit more life out of those tyres.
Yeah, so the next little big battle on track is and question mark about this one is, can Brendan Ross find a way past Turmo in the next probably 2 laps of this race? On lap 13, we had 15 laps last time out. Still got about 25 seconds remaining until time expires. Actually got 20 seconds. I reckon the next one might actually be a final lap. It's going to be very touch and go.
Nether is close. He's coming down now to the last 2 corners. I think it will be borderline, actually.
So at the final corner is Foley. He's got 5 seconds.
I think this will be the last lap then.
Yeah, the next one will be the final one. So there it is. And yep, it will be a 14-lap race, this one. So not quite as fast in this one. 7.7 seconds between Foley and Davies. Davies on that lap, well, both the front runners in the 31s. Cracker had actually quite a poor lap, a 36 on the previous lap, but on this one a 32.5. So that's why Turmo has been able to close in. Turmo now defensive into turn 1 and 2. That will allow Rossi to try and set up a move into turn 3, which, as you can see, the better lines. Trying to optimise the exit is Brendan Ross. He's had him look up the inside and set up a move into 4 here before by sending it up the inside, but Turmo later on the brakes and sweeps in front of him. Now into turn 5. Rossi's had a slightly better exit. Turmo goes slightly defensive, but he's not close enough to make a move. The next closest point is turn 7, and it's going to be all about this exit out of 6.
Yeah, and in the background just slightly there is Nether if these guys do make a hash of it. Turmo's holding him off at the moment though, and this what's helped Foley possibly by giving him an extra a lap less on his tyres is hurting Rossi, because he would have thought he would have had an extra lap to do this, but now he's only got, I believe it's 4 or 5 corners to make a pass on Turmo. Yeah,
Turmo parking at every exit and then just sticking to the inside and slowing it down to give Ross, obviously it kills his momentum and obviously gives Turmo the pick of where to put his car on the circuit. We've got Foley now coming out of the final corner. He'll take 2 from 2 tonight, but there's still one more race to go. So he did what he's had to do to get himself back into the lead, into the lead in the championship. Dwayne Davies again, solid run from him, P2. Bit of a quiet one, but still doing what he has to do, picking up all the points available to keep his championship hopes in tip-top shape. Cracker, a very good result for him and the Cracker Racing team, 3rd place. So well done for him. Turmo will hold on in the end for 4th, with Brendan Ross only 2.5 tenths adrift. Netherealmian in P6. And Matt Williams, did get by both Wayne and Liam Spencer in the end. That's something we didn't catch on our cameras as we're focusing on the Turmo and Ross battle. And obviously, yeah, Wayne in 8th. Liam dropped down to 9th in the end. And Liam was in front of Matt Williams there. We have Caroline Duncan, 10th again. So nice, solid result for him. Steve Bolger in P11. Obviously, his tyres going off and, not too pleased, knocking over the signs once again. So 2 P11 to Bolger. He's in a really good position at the midpoint of this race, but it just fell away from him towards the end. And once again, he's going to get himself DQ'd if he keeps going out that way, and I am not fixing that result if that happens. Matt Cecil, obviously, he only had really an out lap and then another lap to get himself adjusted to the circuit, but he got going. Best lap of the 33.1, so that's not bad when you've just been thrown into the deep end here. And he finished in front of both Miles in 13th and Centino in 14th.
I believe those two both finished a lap down as well.
Yes, they both were a lap down. Everybody finishing so far this evening, which is good to see. And once again, just to round out the top 3, Foley 2 wins from 2. Davies, second in both races, and Cracker holding on and driving a really good second race there here at Winton Raceway.
Hearing some doughy somewhere. I think it might be one of the FCR cars.
Yeah,
Actually, no. Actually, it's just Foley revving the absolute tits off of his engine at the end of pit lane.
we do have Dowies. It's actually Steve Bolger before the server kills it. But yeah, I keep forgetting to go to the Dowies. But anyway, it's ticked over. We'll just have a little bit of a short break as obviously we get things ready for the final race and obviously another one of the reverse grid races of the evening. So don't go anywhere. There's still one more race to go from Winton Motor Raceway. Don't go anywhere. Alrighty, and welcome back. Just about to tick over, just under a minute to go until the warm-up session here. Just prior to the final race begins, we did have Mike Coulson in for a moment, but he was having some issues with the circuit and getting that running. So unfortunately, he's not able to make it. He did try, which is all he can ask for. But at the moment in the warm-up session, got Foley once again showing his credentials on a 130.9 and 1.5 seconds clear of Cracker, and looking like he's going to take a clean sweep of this Winton circuit, because nobody really has got near him. Davies has had pace at times, he's lacked a little bit of consistency, but if Davies wants to win tonight, he's going to have to outdo Foley at what has to be said, Rhodey, is his best game, and that is getting through the field quickly in a reverse grid race.
Yeah, that's one thing we've seen being a fairly strong performance from, I'll say at least most of the FCR drivers in the last little while, is that their reverse grid, I think it's just having, I suppose, the biggest balls, if I can say that on stream, of just putting up the inside in the first couple of laps and just getting those passes done as soon as they can, so that they have the time to focus on the harder passes from those that are a bit more near to them on pace. I think what's helping them out as well is that some of the guys around them recognise who they are and where they normally are in position and are not putting up too much of a fight for the positions.
Yeah, there is a little bit of that, but I think at the same time, I think it's just Foley in particular, his spatial awareness and his racecraft certainly seems to be a step above the majority of the drivers in the field, and he can see guys battling in front of him, and he'll take advantage of seeing someone going a little bit wide, or they're about to miss an apex and he knows they're going to run wide on the exit, so, pardon me, he's able just to bide his time a little bit, see a gap afterwards, take that gap, and then move on to the next one. So obviously that's why one of the many reasons why he's able to get through quickly. Another one, as you touched on, yeah, that aggression, and knowing when to use that aggression too is absolutely key. Because we have seen really aggressive drivers in the past, obviously try and work their way through, but they've been too aggressive and ended up causing hashtag the big one.
Yeah, and as I suppose as exciting as to watch, we're hoping that that doesn't happen again in this race. As we get underway, I think somebody there might have been Kalen was stuck in reverse rather than first gear as he came over the line.
Well, hopefully no one's picked up any damage from that, but we do have this formation lap underway, and Rudy, you've done it the first two races. Why don't you roll us through the grid once again for the final race here from Winton?
Alrighty, starting off on the pole of this race, although he effectively had pole last race with Nintendo starting in the pit lane, is Glenn Miles in the Playboy Camel Racing Alfa Romeo. He's just kept it out of the walls for the most part, which is probably, I suppose, the good part he can pull away from the racing so far tonight. Second is Matt Cecil in the number 97 MPC Castrol Racing Audi. Third is Steve Boulder in the Kupakai Racing Seat. He's not had the performance he would have liked to have so far. Hopefully he can redeem himself in this race. Fourth is Kalen Duncan in the other MPC Castrol Racing Audi, the number 100. He's done an alright job holding on to the back of the pack, but he wasn't too happy with his performance in that second race, but I think he only lost one spot from that last race, from race one performance. Fifth is Liam Spencer, one of a pair of very action-packed or very action-based racing Ford Focuses. Sixth behind him is the second of those Ford Focuses in Wayne. Seventh is Matt Williams in the number 37 FCR Motorsport Corolla, doing a right job for his return appearance in TCR. Eighth is Netherealmian, just going a little wide there actually, in the Outboard Camel Racing Alfa Romeo. He'll have to push through a little hard in that last race. Ninth is Brendan Ross in the 444 Corolla. 10th is Termo in the second Kupakai Racing Seat. 11th is Cracker. Great result from him in the second race. Hopefully he can pull it out again in the third one in the Cracker Racing Team Seat. 12th is Dwayne Davies in the D2 Racing Ford Focus. 13th, 2 wins so far. He's hoping for a third. Brendan Foley in the FCR Motorsport Corolla. And last, by choice actually, is Manuel Santino in the Razor Racing Ford Focus.
Yeah, we did see him obviously pull over to the side of the circuit at the start of race 1 and opted to start race 2 from the pit lane despite being in pole position. But hopefully he can get away cleanly in this one. Jumped up straight away, so everybody's ready. The lights are on. And away we go for the final race of the evening. And looks like once again Boulder's got a decent start. He's sort of forced to the inside there, but around the outside into the lead goes Matt Cecil. And well, behind him is actually looks like Glenn outbroke himself a little bit, just balked the rest of the field slightly. It's Miles now, and yeah, Miles, and trying to think who that is in the other. Kalen.
Oh, we just see someone. That was one of the.
That's 37. That's Williams. That's Williams around. So down to 13.
Back there with one of the chem block focuses as well. So them spinning off as well. Might have been Liam Spencer.
So I'm just going to have a look at the replay. So it looks like there's actually a bit of contact before that. Williams was just an innocent bystander, which obviously there's a bit of contact, or Davies is trying to get out of the way, made slight contact with the block car, and then unfortunately for Williams, he was sort of trying to get out of the way as well, and he went around, unlike Davies. So actually what I will do is go back and we'll have a little bit of a snippet to see what had happened. But I can try and find the right car, that is. Alright, so here we go. So I think what's happened is Wayne here, up the inside of Bolger, has gone around, and Liam also got turned around at the same time by Nether, and then it's all just sort of kicked off and just an absolute mess. Anyway, we're almost through the first lap, and well, both Alfa Romeos there, very, very wide at the penultimate corner. Nether up 4 spots. He would have been up another, but Foley once again at the end of the first lap is in 3rd position. This time though, Brendan Ross not too far away. Out front though, Kalen Duncan has closed the gap between himself and Cecil, who well, they're both quote-unquote teammates, but they're actually guest cars. But that's why, it is the 97 car in front of the 100 car. Foley right there in 3rd place. He's now got Netherealmian behind him, but Nether, he's got to contend with Brendan Ross. Bolger there, he's dropped 3 spots, and he's got Wayne behind him. Turmo in 8th, Cracker in 9th, Miles in 10th. Davies, so he was part of that, trying to avoid the incident happening in front of him in between turn 3 and 4 there. Then we have Matt Williams in 12th, who's got himself in front of both Liam Spencer and Centino after all that has happened.
I'm just going to bring it up because this is the best chance before it all falls apart. But after having no one run Audi's, aside from a guest appearance so far, we've got Audi's leading the race in a 1-2 position, and probably the closest fight we might actually see for the lead of this race, with Foley disappearing away in the lead in the first 2. They've actually lead for a second lap here. Foley hasn't quite caught the back of them yet, although he is not far off with these two nearly wanting to bang doors with each other.
2 seconds off the lead. Now, will they bang doors? No, it doesn't look like they have at the moment, but they're certainly a bit slower than Foley in behind. It was 2 seconds at the second split. I reckon it's going to be a little bit less than that now, but Cecil looks like he's holding up Kalen Duncan. Duncan has to go the long way as Cecil goes defensive into the first corner. But he's come in very, very hot. In fact, they've both come in very, very hot. Cecil's had to avoid the marshal post out there. And out of all that, he's lost position. And he might even lose 2 with Foley around the outside at 3. Yes, Foley will get that position. So both of them just too eager to try and race each other at the front. And now Foley, a good run out of turn 4. He's looking to get himself into the lead and once again walk away with it.
Yeah, he's got to get past Kalen, and Kalen's not going to put up too much of a fight. He even in the 3rd stage, I think he recognises the pace of Foley just from tonight. I think he's enjoying his time in the sun, as it were. But yeah, I certainly see Foley by probably towards, I wouldn't say 3. It's a bit too tight unless Kalen does put it wide. That said, he did almost get it on the inside there, Foley.
It was a little bit wide on the turn in there at turn number 9, but he's going to have the lead for now. But the better traction out of the corner from Foley has now seen him move into the lead for now. Kalen did have the inside, but backed out of it, and Foley into the lead after 2.5 laps. That said, a little bit tardy on the exit there, and we may see him just
cars
move
wide
up.
in the background. Both the Cooper Kai cars went wide there.
Yes, they both are, and once again they're actually going to be running a line astern after their excursion. But Foley will lead after 3 laps. Nether now up into, well, they're still in 3rd, but closing in now on 2nd place Duncan. Yeah, Foley a 31.6 compared to a 32.2 for Nether in 3rd. 33.4 for Duncan. He'll be hoping to break into the 32s in the next couple of laps. Otherwise, it's going to be very, very difficult for him to stick around in a podium position.
Yeah, it's early days, but I'd say he's got a similar driving style to me. Very much relies on having a carrot in front of him to chase. Times to chase, he's not quite so good at just chasing down those times, but especially with someone with the experience he's got, with someone who's got such experience in driving these cars in front of him, if you're paying attention, he will learn a lot in these next couple of laps, even with Nether Pass. Well, Nether's fairly well experienced with these things on how to drive these things and get the pace out of them. And just having the slipstream and the lines to follow is pulling a little wide at some of these slower corners, so maybe it's a setup issue or something. I believe he is running default. But yeah, for the most part, he's not falling off as fast as I would have thought for someone who's in his very first round in these cars.
Yeah, he's sort of stuck around so far. It was 0.7 of a second at the first split. Lost another half a second in the middle sector. That's it. He's actually run a bit wide there at number 9. But he's certainly not making it easy for Nether to get by. Nether struggling to really catch up to the back of the number 100 Audi RS3. And Nether about 1.5 seconds in front of Brendan Ross there in 4th place. So at the moment, yeah, Kalen doing a solid job. About to cross the line. And 32.4, so there we go. Just having a look at live races at the moment. That is a personal best for him as well, a 32.4. So the next target for him is can he find a couple more tenths, hit a 32.0, or perhaps even sneak into the 31s. If he's able to do that, he'll certainly give himself every opportunity to take a podium in his first event. That said though, he's got 13 minutes plus an additional lap to do so, and he's got a fast-charging Nether, as well as Brendan Ross in behind him, who we both know are quality drivers in these front-wheel drive racing cars.
Yeah, Nether, I can't see as much him trying to poke up the inside. That city. He is trying to get a pass done now. Rossi is more the sort that will just put his nose up the inside whenever he feels is most opportune. But yeah, pace-wise, that last lap, that best lap for Kalen puts him 10th. Or the best lap of all the drivers. Actually just got escorted, I think it was already wide a little bit, but got helped wide in the end there by Nether, who's actually backed out of it. So I think maybe that was Nether's mistake, trying to get past Kalen, but it's now put Rossi up behind Nether.
Yeah, that's given all in all Duncan a little bit of breathing room, and Nether now under pressure. It's both he and Ross a little bit wide, although Nether cost him more time than what it did Ross. Straight to the inside is Nether. Ross going to have to go the long way. He's probably going to try and set up a undercut into the final corner. Isn't quite able to do it. Now it's all about setting up a decent run out of the final corner. He's got that decent run. Will Nether go defensive, or will he just allow Ross to send it up the inside? No, he's just going to give him that inside. But Ross pulls back to the inside. Oh, a little bit of contact between the two. There goes the bumper of the Alfa Romeo. That's Ross not letting Nether get away.
No, and what's happening here with his battle is it's, aside from obviously giving Foley a chance to run away, it's also giving Kalen a chance to try and make a bit of a break for it as well.
Further back, we've got Turmo. Sorry to cut you off. He's just made his way past Matt Cecil. He's doing all he can to hold on to a decent result. He's done all right so far, but the faster guy's now starting to overwhelm him just a little bit. He's made a mistake at 5. It's sort of compromised Cracker a little bit. Dwayne Davies also right there. Davies really has to get a wriggle on if he wants to try, as he makes the move up the inside now of Cecil into 7. Doing what he has to do, Davies, but he is going to have to get a wriggle on with 11 minutes remaining if he wants to limit the damage between himself and Foley in the lead.
Yeah, and actually, Dwayne's in probably the worst position of those lead drivers, because not only sure was he caught up in that incident we saw at the start of the race, he also went extremely wide into this corner here on lap 1 and actually made it all the way to the tyre barrier that separates it from the front straight. Didn't actually make contact with it, but he went way wide, and that's where he lost all his spots. He was up, I believe, sitting in 4th before he went off there and lost 5 spots. So he'll be a man on a mission right now.
We've got Nether and Ross side by side, and they've actually just got by Duncan. So Duncan out of that podium spot. So what has happened to Duncan? So they're side by side out of turn number 10 there. So what has happened here? So we'll just cut to a replay, and it was a little bit of daylight between them, but Duncan just outbraking himself a little bit, running a bit wide. In fact, it looks like he's actually just got on the power far too early there at turn number 9, and that allowed Nether to close in, and Ross was right there, and then they went side by side, and the rest is history. Ross still inseparable from the rear end of Nether's Alfa Romeo. Foley's well off in the distance. I won't catch him barring an error. But the next, obviously, biggest battle here for second. Rossi wanting to make it an FCR 1-2.
Yeah, at Kalen's lap pace, I don't think it's going to be there quite to race these guys, but he is, I believe, sitting at somewhere within region of a 10th better than Wayne's current best. So if he doesn't get caught by Wayne, there should be a pretty juicy battle there for those two.
We've got Ross making a move. He had a decent exit out of turn number 9. He's up the inside at turn 10. Can he pull it up? Can Nether hold on around the outside? Well, they're going to try it, but Ross is ahead for now. Nether will have the inside for the final corner, but Ross does have a fair overlap now. Nether late
He's going
on
to put up the
the
inside
brakes.
though anyway.
It's going to try a little bit of contact, but that's okay. But Nether ahead for now. Ross thought about sending it up the inside for the final corner, but wasn't able to send it. But once again, status quo. Nether still in second for now, but Ross, I'd imagine, getting further and further impatient. It's allowing Duncan to stick around. And we've also got Wayne and that is Turmo battling it out. And Davies having to cut across the first corner there, almost wiping out Cracker and those cars in front of him as well. So we'll just cut to a replay of that and see actually what happened. Right on board here, Wayne Davies. Oh, he's just gone down a gear too much. And the car goes silent like that. Good things do not happen. But he's now down in 9th. He's going to have to get by Bulger again and then set his sights on Cracker. So Turmo now up into 5th, up 5 spots ahead of Wayne. And Wayne now having to contend with Cracker, who's having a pretty solid weekend, sitting in 7th and looking to move up now into 6th.
Yeah, Cracker's, I mean, it didn't start too well for him, but he's actually managed to redeem himself as he now puts a pass up the inside of Wayne. Actually a bit of contact there, but I think that was racing rather than anything malicious. And he has actually now got the pass done, so he is now putting his sights on the back of the one of the other Cupras in the field, the Cupra Kai racing car of Turmo. Yeah,
a little bit of contact actually between Wayne and Cracker there through turn 10, and that sees the rear bumper depart the CRT car. But Cracker doing a good job. Looks like he's a little bit I was going to say a little bit faster than Turbo. He was closing, but running wide at the penultimate corner like that isn't going to help his chances, and that's going to give Wayne another opportunity now into the first chicane. And Cracker will have to go defensive, otherwise we'll probably see Wayne send it up the inside. That said, he's actually had a fairly decent exit, and it's actually pulling away a little bit down the straight. So holding on for now, but those little mistakes not helping his cause.
No, Cracker needs to drop Wayne as soon as he can, so that he can focus on driving in a way that gets him up to the back of Turmo. Because at the moment he's having to juggle between driving to try and catch Turmo and driving to try and keep Wayne behind him. A little bit of contact there. But Wayne's kind of doing it himself. He's getting speed in all the wrong places at the moment because he's constantly finding the back of the CRT car, but not in any position where he can actually make a pass out of it. So, for example, in that last case, found the back of him on the way into turn 4 and actually lost the rear. The weight transfer effect actually hit Wayne the worst, and he actually lost the rear on the way into the corner.
And we've had Matt Cecil retire, and I've just had a look at Facebook because I've got a comment from Matt Cecil, and looks like he's been dropped out due to internet problems. So big shame for him because he was in a solid position, but obviously Australian internet strikes again. To quote obviously Matt Cecil, and I can certainly speak that our internet is quite shit house if I'm perfectly honest, but that's why Cecil is out. Nether and Ross battle sort of quietened down just a little bit for now. See Foley well out in the lead. Duncan slowly falling into the clutches of Turmo. As we see, that's Cracker off at the penultimate corner. So what has happened here? Looks like he's just outbroke himself. So we cut to a replay. Yeah, he's just outbroke himself by probably about 50 metres there. It's a big mistake. And he's now behind Wayne Davies. He's looking to get by Wayne in P6. He's got a little bit of an overlap now, and he'll be able to force Wayne wide here at turn 3, and he's got the move done. Nice and easy. He's actually got quite a big ding there. The front splitter, his car, that must be where he hit the barrier there, Rody, on the first lap.
Yeah, I couldn't tell from where I was sitting. I was following the lead cars. I saw him get to the barriers. I'm not sure if he actually hit them or not, but if he did, it would have been a very slight touch. Obviously enough to dent the bumpers, but as we've talked previously, most of the bumpers on these things are made out of paper mache. So very easy to dink the bumpers on these things.
Yeah, well, the Focus cars, the bumpers don't come flying off very easily, and same with the Toyota Corolla and the Renault Fluence, but those two being stock cars. But all the other mod cars, namely the Alfa Romeo, the Seat, the Audi, and I'm probably missing one as well, the Peugeot, the body parts do fly off those cars for whatever reason. But back in P2, Rossi's starting to once again apply the bloat torches to Nether as we enter just under 4.5 minutes remaining.
Yeah, it's. I think Rossi's probably starting to get maybe a little annoyed. I mean, we talk about Nether being probably one of the best defensive drivers in AMSOZ, and Rossi I think was here for the discussion, so he knows that, and he's raced Nether, so he also knows that as well. So I don't think he should be putting himself under too much pressure to get past him because he is a hard person to pass, but at the same time, that lead is getting increasingly. I think, to be honest, without a mistake from Foley, he isn't necessarily going to catch him anyway, but he is still going to miss out on points being here, and it's points to the leader. Even though it's within the team, there will still be some fierce competition between the three FCR drivers as to who can come out on top.
Well, it's also important for Nether. He was sitting in third place before this round began, and he's still within striking distance of the championship. Obviously, Wayne was leading the championship before this round. He probably won't be afterwards, regardless of where he finishes race 2 here, just because of the dominance of Foley winning both the 2 races and most likely taking the final one here this evening. But Nether wants to keep himself within touch, just in case Foley and Davies have a bad round. And obviously the first 2 races haven't been too kind to Nether, but a second place will certainly help his cause of staying within the championship hunt. As Rossi tried to get the old switch-a-roo done at turn 11, but a big lock-up. I thought he was going to lock up and end up spearing into the back of the Alfa Romeo, but he's able to pull it up. But he'll be driving on 50-cent pieces for the next 3 minutes and additional lap.
Yeah, and that's not fun in any car, especially to the fronts in these cars. Fronts really do a whole lot of the work in these cars, and the way the FCR cars are set up, we noted it, I believe, at Barbagallo as well. They love locking up the inside rear tyre on the way into corners. I don't think that does any damage the way they keep driving them like that, but yeah, the fronts, I'd say at the very least, they're going to be unhappy, and with everything else that goes through the fronts, you're going to feel it for the entire lap.
So saw a couple of laps ago, it looks like Dwayne Davies lost a spot or 2 somewhere. He's now behind Wayne. Turmo now, he's right behind Kalen, and we've had Nether go off. Nether has gone off, he's dropped to 3rd position, and we just cut to him, and it looked like he must have gone off at turn 5. Yeah, he's done exactly what I did. I think it was in race 1, I believe. Rossi also went off as well, but Nether went all the way around. Ross was able to sort of continue on and not lose too much momentum and speed, so that's Ross now making it an FCR 1-2. Nether will be kicking himself. And now, the battle for 3rd place is certainly spiced up, with Kalen Duncan right behind Nether, and Turmo also looking to sneak his way onto the podium.
It's interesting, and it's commendable for Kalen. He's managed to stick up this far, this long. He's only got the pace to be 10th quickest on paper on best times, but at this point in the race, your best lap time doesn't really matter because you're not able to do that with the tyres where they're at. And gaps don't make a difference really, because he is filling the mirrors currently of that Alpha, and he's actually got a run on him almost on the way into the straight.
He's had a decent exit out of the final corner. He's going to have a move. He's going to have a look. He's sent it up the inside, and in fact, just pulling back in, just playing it safe for now. Sort of compromised his run through the first chicane. He's going to have to watch for Turmo, who was battering the curbs through turn 1 and 2 there. In the background, also got Wayne and Cracker battling it out, with Dwayne Davies not too far away either. There's a bit of contact between Kalen Duncan and Turmo. Turmo just getting off the throttle as he just sort of redressed that. That's given Nether a little bit of breathing room. Ross isn't too far down the road as well, as time is starting to expire. And Ross very wide at 6 and 7 there. And, well, it would have been heart and mouth stuff there, because if he went a few more inches to the left-hand side there, he would have found himself in the grass, and there was no way he was getting that back without dropping a few spots.
No, that corner is one where the racing service just keeps driving away from you through that corner, and obviously lack of front grip pushes you understeer, and it's near impossible to get back into there without losing some spots. The thing for Tomo as well is that Tomo, we're talking about this with the ASC Championship being the same night as TCR last week or last round, and Tomo rather came here because he'd be competitive. At the moment, or at least early on in this lap, Tomo could see a top three for him. So he's, I think, a bit more anxious than he was to try and get past Kalen to then hopefully try and put some pressure on the back of Nether.
And the next lap will be the final one. 14 laps in this one. Not often that we see races have a shorter lap count in the first race of the evening, but it is the case here. And a nice little battle now forming between, see, Wayne, Cracker, and Dwayne. Nothing between them. For, obviously, in the end, P6. Cracker was putting the pressure on Wayne, but now he's got the pressure from Dwayne coming in behind. But Dwayne actually a little bit too aggressive there. It's going to cost him a little bit of time, and now Cracker can focus on Wayne, but he's made a mistake through turn 4, ran a little bit wide. Once again, that's allowing Wayne to get away, and Davies to close back in. Further afield, though, and 7/10 of a second between Brendan Ross and Netherealmian once again. Nether wants to get P2 back. Ross wants to hold on for an FCR 1-2. Behind them, Kalen Duncan will be hoping for a bit of contact to jump onto the podium, a bit of luck. And Turmo will be hoping they all wipe themselves out, and he can do Bradbury and find himself up into P2.
Oh, yeah, Tomo, sorry, not Tomo. Kalen's in a bit of trouble right now. He ran wide through the middle section of the gum tree and just couldn't get back on the racing line. Now he's got Tomo around the outside. I don't think he's going to make
further
it too
up.
hard.
Ross is off. Ross is off ahead of him. Nether is going to sneak ahead for now. So right at the death, he's going to take it. Foley's going to take the win. 3 from 3. Perfect round from him. But at the death, Nether has taken P2 due to an off. We've also got a yellow flag out for some reason where Termo's made the move. Kalen's going to try and get him on the switchback.
But I think he's got him. That was Centeno, I think, entering the pits. Look at Tomo might have got the run, but he was...
Doesn't matter. Nether has stolen second in the end. And Kalen has taken back 4th in the end. So Ross has, he's shown his displeasure by totaling his car there at the end of the first chicane.
Same with Dwayne actually in the background as well. He had Pacer at the front there, and it looked like good racing from what we were seeing, him finishing back in 8th, but not where he wanted to finish.
And, he's frisbeed his car into the stands. So he'll finish in 9th. Matt Williams, in 9th, and Dwayne Davies in 10th. Liam Spencer, 10th. Bolger in 11th. He's finishing 11th in every race this evening. And then we have Glenn Miles in 12th. Centeno, so he's stopping in the pit lane there, caused that yellow flag, and Cecil obviously out with internet issues. But what I do want to do, I want to find a replay of what happened on that last lap to Brendan Ross there. So just going to scroll all the way back. Obviously, we did see the end of it where he ran wide at turn 9. Now, was there a move being made, or did he just do it on his own? Let's have a look. So he's coming out of turn number 9 and running towards turn 10. He's just carried too much speed. His front tyres are gone, and that was the end of that. Really, really clumsy and costly for him in the end. And then behind him, obviously, we cut to a replay. Turmo up the inside, the penultimate corner. Kalen, seeing that Turmo outbroke himself on the switch back up the inside at the final corner, and then holding on, blocking Turmo off at the line. So fantastic racing. It's just a shame that nobody could catch Bretton Foley this evening.
Yeah, that was some mental racing behind Foley, but Foley did what Foley has done, and he just managed to drive away from that one yet again. Yeah, perfect weekend at Winton for Brenton, and I don't think he's going to have too many complaints.
No, he certainly will not. Perfect evening, taking every win this evening. Obviously didn't start from pole position, but ever since, obviously, the getaway from the drop of the lights in race 1 into the lead, and then, it has to be said, never really headed.
Yeah, I think he probably come into it would have had to more of a fight from his teammates, also from people like Nether and from Dwayne. And Dwayne, although he got 2 seconds in the first 2 races today, he didn't challenge Foley, I think, really at all in getting those. And I think, unfortunately for the rest of the competition, Foley might have gone on top of those sort of changing grip issues that he was having in the first couple of rounds of the season. And if that's the case, I don't want to... It's going to be a challenge for anyone else to catch him based off of tonight's results.
That said, though, Winton has, well, as a circuit, has been completely different to what's been run in the first two rounds of the season. Obviously, Sydney and Barbagallo all having sort of fast, flowy corners. Obviously, you do have to trust, obviously, the effort with your setup that your front tyres can last. And obviously, not being able to change the bars certainly would have been a bit of a detriment in those first two rounds. While here at Winton, it's more so about not locking your front tyres and not spinning your tyres up, which can be manageable more so with the right foot than with setup. So with all that being said, I'm just having a look at the spreadsheet being updated now. So Foley is into the lead, and he's also here in the commentary box. So Foley, a perfect weekend aside from not being able to get pole position, but ever since the lights dropped from race 1, you're into the lead and you're never really headed.
Yeah, I got pretty lucky in the last two races where I didn't really get caught up in too many battles, which kind of gave me a fresh air gap, and I was able to just put my head down and put in some good laps. But yeah, really, really happy with my night and how the race went.
Yeah, certainly. Well, we didn't really see too much of you, so do forgive us if you don't ask you too much about how your evening was. But I guess the first two rounds, obviously, did find a bit of form at Barbagallo with a win and a couple seconds there, but you're utterly dominant around here. Was it more a case of you getting used to the car and being able to set it up, or was it more a case of a combination of, say, the car setup obviously becoming a bit closer to how you'd like it with these cars, as well as the circuit being a little bit different and probably suiting your driving style?
I'd say, yeah, you pretty much hit the nail on the head there. It's a bit of both. We're at FCR learning a lot more about these cars now and kind of what works and what doesn't work when we need certain things from it. And it's also Winton's a track that I've done a fair few laps at it, and it kind of suits the way that I was driving. So it's a bit of both.
Well, it certainly showed this evening. Dominant 3 wins, quite comfortable. Well done, and we'll catch you in a couple of weeks' time.
Thanks very much.
All right, well, we might as well jump over Dwayne Davies. I see 2 second places, pole position, but in the end, that final race there just didn't quite go your way. Would you talk us through, obviously, what happened there that meant that you couldn't get through the field as well as you would have liked, say, like you did in the second race?
I think I had some damage. The rear brakes just seemed to just keep locking after I had that contact with. I just bounced off the forwards when they spun in turn 3, I think it was, and bounced off scruff, and then after that the car just wasn't how it should have been. Every time I got past someone, the rears would just lock and I'd just sail on straight by. So no, it was all right until last race. But, oh well.
Bit of a shame, although that said, you had been on the podium for every single race up until that final race, so it still has been a good start to your season. Aside from obviously the final race this evening, how did you find the car around Winton compared to how it was obviously at Sydney and at Barbagallo?
The car was fine. The track can just go. Yeah, it's the worst track on. Whoever created it should be shot. That's all I'll say. I've never liked the track, so but I'd probably say that's better to drive than a V8 around here. But yeah, still not enjoyable track for me.
Fair enough. Still, despite that, so you come away, so you're not in the lead of the championship anymore, but you're still right there in championship contention.
Thanks, Lewis. Cheers, mate.
All right. Well, we do have Brendan Ross in here as well. Also got Nether, but we'll cut to Rossi first. Well, Rossi, a very mixed evening for you there. Obviously claiming 2/3, but that final race there, it was a bit of a nail biter for you.
Define mixed. That was probably my most consistent weekend, but sort of just battled for tyre wear all race. Like first race, I was managing it, but just that was the most I used up on my tyre wear. Second race, I didn't give a rat's and I didn't use it up, and then that third race sort of in the middle there. So probably my best weekend. It probably the worst track I can race at, but yeah.
Well, I guess by mixed, I mean obviously qualifying didn't exactly go your way, but you're still able to nab a third place, obviously in race 1 there. But and again, 5th, as you said, not your ideal finishing position in the second race, considering the pace you had. Obviously, in practice, you were fairly comparable to obviously Foley and Dwayne. But just talk us through, obviously, what happened there towards the end of that final race, where obviously you and Nether had a bit of a battle there. But was it so much tyres, or did you just outbrake yourself there at turn 9, which saw you just clumsily fall off the road and give up second position there?
No, I deliberately done that just to give Nether a spot back. No, I just ran out of talent, so I was lucky to get past Nether when he ran wide and I ran wide. And I thought I could cruise home, but no, I just ran out of talent for the last 2 laps after telling myself that just need to keep it simple. But there you go.
Well, unlucky. Still, your best round of the season, and hopefully for you it's a turning point and you can start challenging for some wins and annoy your teammate just a little bit.
Annoying is a good word.
Or you could just T-bone him as well, that's fine.
Oh, I got to prove
Yes,
it.
do that one.
Alright, well, best of luck for the rest of the season.
Thanks, mate.
Alright, Nether, looking at the stats, obviously your worst round of the season, a 4th, a 6th and a 2nd. But in the end, you were able to nab a podium in the end, but it was a bit of a struggle in the end.
Sorry if I can unmute myself. That's actually going to help. Yeah, it was a bit of a comedy of errors all round, I think, tonight. The first couple of races, I just didn't have the pace to live with the front runners, and I continually tuned the car throughout the night just to try and find something that would work, something that would allow me to run with them at the front. I think I finally found something tonight in the second race. Third race sort of didn't go according to plan. I actually probably used a little bit more tyre than I wanted to. And I was probably a bit lucky in the end that after Rossi made a mistake, then I made a worse one that I actually managed to get back after he made a couple on the last lap. So a little bit lucky, I think, in that third race to actually get second instead of third.
Still, though, a podium in each round so far. You find yourself third place in the championship. About, just having a look at the moment, about 46 points or so off the lead. But you've built together a solid campaign. From what you've learned so far, is there anything that, obviously setup-wise or car driving-wise, that you think that you found, obviously, through these first 3 rounds that you can take for the remainder of the season?
Yes, there is, and I'm not, without giving too much away, it's that every track has something that's a little bit different that you need to cater for. Starting out carrying setups over from different race meetings to see what they do is starting to teach me a lot, and it just takes a little bit too long, unfortunately, for me to find what the changes are that need to be done. I haven't got the luxury of doing a lot more running around in free practice than I would like to. But I find that as the night wears on, I seem to get a little bit better and a little bit better. I need to be doing that a lot earlier and need to be able to make those changes a lot earlier. And the other thing that I did learn was that I think FCR, anyone who's been around for a long time knows what FCR stands for. I think tonight it gained a new one, and that's frustrating car racing, because the guys that sit behind me, I think, are probably getting a little bit hot under the collar and a little bit frustrated looking at my rear bumper all the time.
Well, I'm pretty sure Ross was certainly a little bit frustrated in the final race. They're having to look at the back of the orange and grey Alfa Romeo, but still, solid effort. Could have been a little bit better, I guess, but you're still taking positives from every round, which is certainly something you want to do when you're racing week in, week out.
Yeah, you got to. And the most important thing is you've got to finish every race. Like we did when we did TCR last year, we did Porsche Cup the time before that. You've got to finish every race to, be in with a shot at the end. If you don't finish a race, you don't score any points, and it's pretty simple. That's what plummets you down the order. So you've got to make the best of every race that you're in with. If you finish ahead of your rivals, in some times you do, and if you finish behind them, you take the bad as well. You just got to minimise the deficits as best you can, and you do that by finishing every race.
Certainly, and that's what obviously you guys in the top 3 of the championship have done so far. With obviously Foley only off the podium once, Davies only off the podium once, and you've been, the lowest that you've finished is 6th. So you guys have been picking up good points all the way through, and that's why you guys are in the top 3 of the championship. So well, best of luck for the rest of the season, and hopefully you can take it up to the FCR guys and Dwayne Davies throughout the rest of the season.
Let's hope so. Thanks, mate.
All right, well, that just about does it for it, or does us for tonight, Rhodey. But before that, might as well go to my favourite segment of me forgetting what is coming up at Automobilist Australia, because I always forget to bring up the events page to see what is coming up. So just bear with us.
I can rattle off tomorrow for you off the top of my head. Tomorrow we are doing round 4, I believe it is, of the TSAC All-Wheel Drive series. That will be over on the Short Shift Motorsport podcast channel, I believe it is. And we're racing, actually, no, that's right, we're racing at Barbagallo, same place that TDC was at on Monday. Also tomorrow, it's not AMSOZ, but it is our good mates over at ARW. They're holding the Clippy Clop 100, I believe it is, utilising a mod that I never thought would have been done for Automobilista, but there is a horse racing mod where your car has the physical embodiment of a horse, complete with neighs and clip clops and all the good horse sounds. I don't know where they're actually racing at, but that will be over on the ARW channel. It being April 1st, tomorrow was the perfect time for it. That's why it's come along. And look, that's going to be some entertaining racing, no matter how good the racing actually is. From there, I think you've actually maybe got the calendar up by this point to fill us through from there.
Yes, I do. So next Tuesday on the Outworld broadcast channel, we have the GT3 World Series from Austria. So that'll be a 60-minute sprint event there. That'll certainly be a hotly contested one. We did have I do believe last year we had a couple test races there, and it was very close racing up and down the field. So that's something that if you're not racing in it, certainly try and flick up the old Outworld broadcasting and watch that one, because it will be a cracker. And then obviously next Thursday as well on the Outworld broadcasting channel, we do have the supercars from Tasmania. Now those that are racing, there has been an update release for the Tasmanian circuit, which makes it so we can use the ASC / the AC and R Factor 2 version, or port, of the Simmons Plains track, which is a very, very accurate and good-looking one. So make sure you get that one. That'll also be a very interesting race. Obviously, only 3 real corners that you have to, or 4 corners you have to really worry about. And whenever we've been there, we've seen some good, interesting racing. So certainly something to check out. And then obviously a day after that, we have Super 2 from, you guessed it, Barbagallo Raceway once again. But yeah, that is up until next Friday, not this Friday, but next Friday. And then after that, on Monday the 13th of April, the Track Day Cup returns from Taruma.
And that should be good. All that's going to be good racing. I think I'm in the seat every race for that until we come back again for TCR in a fortnight.
Yeah, so, and obviously the next round of TCR is the first time that Automobilist Australia, as we've said earlier in the broadcast, heads to the Bend Motorsport Park. There won't be too many laps in those races, but certainly a very, very tricky track for these cars to race around. So that'll be another one to look out for. Anyway, from myself, Lewis Wedding, and from Rody over here, hope you've enjoyed tonight's broadcast of the Automobilist Australia TCR Australia series from Winton Motor Raceway. Obviously, hopefully you can catch all the broadcasts coming up throughout the various channels. And we hope to see you again, obviously, from Super 2 obviously on Friday the 10th, and then in 2 weeks' time, obviously, with TCR once again. Hope you've enjoyed it. Have a good one.